Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream. I'm trying to find it. There we go. Hello. Happy Saturday. A holiday weekend here. I'm not really doing much for. But no matter, because we're here. The plan for today is to be reading more Higurashi, Yoigoshi, and then we'll switch over and transition to blueprints for the rest of the day at some point. Eagle-Eye viewers from the last Higurashi stream where we started Yoigoshi, however we want to say it. Eagle-Eye viewers will know that at some point as we started in on it, I felt like something was off. And that's because I was right, but I didn't correct it at that time because I didn't know how to. Because I'm trying my best to balance not spoiling stuff, but also knowing what I gotta hit and where to go and everything, and orders and all that. So basically, for the next couple of arcs, apparently there are both... What's the word I'm looking for? Prologues and epilogues that are contained within the police case files here. That I initially was under the understanding that these were something I'd go to after just finishing the arc. But that's not the case. As you can kind of see here, there's a prologue and an epilogue. And so I should have done the prologue first and then did what we did last stream. But now, because I fucked that up, I'm going to read the prologue now, and then we'll just jump back to where we started. And I hope you forgive me. But I know you'll forgive me, because I am but a simple proxy for the reading experience here of Yoigoshi, and I'm trying my best. You know what I mean? Trying my best here. So I think I click start. And then it just... Okay. But yeah, I caught this a bit last stream of Higurashi, but I didn't know... I was like, wait, isn't there a prologue? Because I knew that much. I was like, I think there's supposed to be like a designated prologue thing, and we didn't get that at... Like, we just jumped right into my thirsty friend who was there in the car with his new teammate. His reporting friend. So yeah, I think we read National Police Agency Administrative Document Prologue. Summer 2006.
噂では聞いてたけど、やっぱいい眺めだな。
I've heard all the rumors, but this really is a gorgeous view. Standing at the top of the hill, I stretched my arms out wide and took a deep breath to fill my lungs with the fresh air. A serene countryside landscape was laid out right before my eyes, and the distinctive thatched roof houses were beautifully peppered throughout the landscape. It was far more spectacular than I expected, and I couldn't help but let out a sigh.
お父さんも一緒にここから始めればいいのに。
We could have started out here together, Dad.
手分けした方が効率的なんて言わなくてもさ。
You didn't have to go and say it'd be more efficient if we split up. As I said that, I looked off in the direction I expected my father to be. Of course, there was no way I could see him from here, but I could just picture him furrowing his brow as he sifted through the case files, and I immediately burst out laughing. My father was currently heading off to survey the swamp alleged to be the source of volcanic gas. He called it the Onigafuchi Swamp. Nowadays, the land is buried in concrete. It's a huge vacant lot in the middle of the forest.
さてと、
Now then,
まずは定番通り撮影から始めますか。
first off, I should stick to standard procedure and start taking pictures. So, I waved goodbye to the breathtaking scenery and went back to the way I came. Luscious greenery was growing in the grassy fields along the way. The bright sunshine was brilliantly reflected in the raindrops that had fallen last night. When I stepped onto the soft grass, my feet sank in up to my ankles and water began pouring in.
Oh.
I could see a pitch-black, filthy stone lantern in a clearing up ahead. In the old days, there were tons of plants spread throughout the lawns and gardens, with clusters of cedar trees standing against the backdrop of pines in the forest. But now, the area was covered in tall weeds. It wasn't all that different from the flatlands deep in the mountains. I continued taking pictures as I made my way to the main shrine and stopped in front of the ritual storehouse. The latch on the door was broken, and I caught a glimpse of the dark interior through the gap between the doors. According to the materials I read beforehand, a variety of unsavory tools and instruments were stored within.
撮影いいのかな。
I wonder if it's alright to be taking pictures here.
バチ当たったりしないかな。
Maybe I'll get punished for it.
やっぱいいか。
Yeah, not worth it. After briefly getting lost in thought, I decided to leave the area for now. I'd already been in there once to take a glimpse, but even I couldn't bring myself to go in again all on my own.
それにしても建物って人がいなくなるとこんなにも朽ち果てちゃうんだね。
At any rate, these buildings have suffered significant decay since all the people left the area.
普段は人が住まない神社もしかりか。
That's natural for a shrine without any residents. I let out a sigh as I stared at the main hall. The paint was bare from weather exposure, and the decorative brackets were covered in rust, and the wooden parts were, needless to say, even worse.
さてと、
Now then,
次はどこに行こうかな。
where should I go next? I took a seat under the shrine gate and pulled a map of the village out of my breast pocket and spread it out before me. It was a computer-generated map I was able to design based on the surveying conducted by my father and his fellow detectives. And the end result was pretty impressive. If my technologically inept father first saw it, he said, "You chose the wrong career path. You'd make a lot more money working for a design company." Still, even if he had said that sort of thing earlier on, it wouldn't have changed my mind. Indeed, it might be a bit overblown to say, but I believe that I was born to be a detective. And I came to this village in order to succeed my father's will.
今はフルデ神社だから。
I'm at the Fruity Shrine right now, so I looked up at the sun high in the sky to confirm the appropriate direction, and then I turned my gaze down toward the map spread out in front of me and pulled a pen out of my breast pocket. Is that it? That can't be it. Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. I don't think the prologue is going to be long. Yeah. 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 Okay. So not a ton, but hey, it's good to be thorough. Go back, you know? Be thorough. BT. Death Stranding. End of chapter 1. That's where we're at. Let's go, baby. We ride. I don't know how long Higurashi reading is going to be today. I do want to get a good chunk of blueprints runs in. But I also don't want to just not read a good amount of Higurashi. I'm also thinking next week might be one of those times where we read, if we play, like, let's say a lot of blueprints next week, that whenever I stream during the night, I might do, like an hour of reading Higurashi and then switch into blueprints type thing, just so we can, again, during the week, like, progress a bit through here, the, this arc. So I'd say just be mentally and physically prepared for that. Maybe emotionally. All three prepared. Mouse in the way. After walking down the heavily forested road for a while, Miyuki-chan suddenly came to a halt. What's wrong? She remained silent and answered my question by pointing forward. There's that, like, monkey-like sound effect in the background. I just always hear it and think of a monkey. A single car was parked at the base of the stone steps leading up to the shrine. And the car didn't look local. License plate had the name Nerima written on it, so the car probably belonged to someone who came here from that part of Tokyo. What is this? Again, that's impossible. I started to wonder if we'd find another body inside, but I kept those thoughts to myself. I feared that speaking those words would cause it to become reality.
ちょっと見てきます。
With wild apes would be bananas. Heyo, zinger. But I'll take a quick look.
あ、俺も行くよ。
Okay, I'll come too. For a moment, the faces of those people quickly flashed through my mind. Those three peaceful-looking men and women who passed away in their sleep.
ああいうのを見るのは二度とごめんだ。
I don't want to see something like that again. I said a silent prayer before cautiously peering inside the parked car. Please, let there be no corpses inside. I pointed my flashlight inside, but nobody was in there.
よかったな。誰もいなくて。
Thank goodness. It's empty.
おかしいですね。誰も乗っていないなんて。
But isn't it strange that nobody's inside? Huh? Though I was smiling to myself, Miyuki-chan turned to me with a stern look on her face. Then I pointed my light all around the car and even underneath. But there was no signs of human presence.
なあ、みゆきちゃん。
Hey, Miyuki-chan.
誰も乗ってないのがなんでおかしいんだ。
Why is it strange for nobody to be inside?
この車、今日ここへ来たばかりって感じです。
I have a feeling this car drove here today.
だったら乗っていた人はどこに行ったんでしょう。
And if that's the case, then where did the driver go?
車輪の跡もほら。
Take a look. There are tire tracks. On Miyuki-chan's suggestion, I turned my flashlight toward the ground. Indeed, the fresh-looking tracks along the muddy ground led straight to the tires. The rain began in the evening, so these tracks must have been created sometime after that.
車は普通のナンバーか。
I wonder if the car has an ordinary plate number,
じゃなかったら確定なんだけど。
but I don't have the means to verify that.
え
Huh?
みゆきちゃん、今なんて。
Miyuki-chan, what was that just now?
いえ、なんでもないです。
Oh, it's nothing. Miyuki-chan brushed my question aside, then focused her flashlight inside the car once more. We carefully examined every corner of the driver and passenger seats with our flashlights, then moved on to the back seat. The back seat had a few magazines and CD cases strewn about, but nothing particularly interesting.
なあ、みゆきちゃん。
Hey, Miyuki-chan,
さっき何を言いかけたの。
what were you talking about a moment ago?
大したことじゃないです。
It's nothing important.
気にしないでください。
Please, don't worry about it. She wears the pants in this relationship. As she said that, Miyuki-chan ran her gaze up and down the car's interior. Despite saying it was nothing important, she continued painstakingly examining the car. We've already established that there are no people here, so what is she searching for now? Feeling it awkward to stand idly by, I continued to check the inside of the car as well. However, I couldn't find anything particularly unusual. A keychain with the cutesy mascot character was dangling in the driver's seat.
運転手は女か。
Perhaps the driver is a woman? Although it's pretty common for men to carry cute little accessories like that these days. No need to jump to conclusions.
特に異常はないみたいです。
Looks like there's nothing out of the ordinary.
そろそろ行きましょうか。
So, shall we keep moving?
あ
Oh, sure. Following Miyuki-chan's suggestion, I stepped away from the car.
それにしても今どの辺りなんだろうな。
Anyway, where are we now?
今、古出神社の手前ですね。
Right now, we're in front of the Furude Shrine.
ほら、ここです。
Here, take a look at this. Miyuki-chan pulled out a map that I didn't even notice her bring, then spread it out and pointed the flashlight. She slid her finger across the map, then stopped at a specific point.
少し前に石段が見えますよね。
Take a look at those stone steps straight ahead.
神社はあの階段の上ですよ。
Those stairs lead directly to the shrine.
階段。
Man, I know this is probably going to aim to be like a serious feeling and sounding arc, but like, man, it would be... I would not mind a more lighthearted, all the club members just are ghosts. We just see ghosts just around Hinamizawa here, club members. And then we just have a ghost time. A fun ghost time. Stairs? I turned my gaze upward as she said that, and even in the dark I could clearly make out the steep staircase climbing uphill. Steep staircase. But even though I was certain there'd be a shrine gate at the top, I couldn't see it from here.
あんなの登るのかよ。
Do we really need to climb that?
なんだあるんだありゃ。
Just how many steps are there?
とにかく登るしかありませんよ。
Anyway, climbing them is our only option.
行きましょう、龍之介さん。
Let's get going. I forgot. Ryunosuke-san.
あ
Forgot that they were calling. Alright. Miki-chan walked forward at a decent pace, then began ascending the stone steps. I ran after her, skipping steps to catch up. However, poor visibility and weak footing caused me to fall down to my hands and knees.
大丈夫ですか？
Are you alright?
滑りますから気をつけてくださいね。
Please be careful. Slippery.
あ悪い
Right, my mistake. Miki-chan came down the stone steps to where I had stumbled with an umbrella in hand. I couldn't see my feet very well. The rain had made the steps slick, and some of the steps were even covered in a slippery layer of moss. But despite all that, Miki-chan was able to calmly ascend the steps. The constant rainfall left our bodies completely soaked.
えっくす
Achoo.
大丈夫ですか？
Are you alright?
だいぶ冷えてきましたね。急ぎましょう。
It's getting pretty cold, isn't it? We better hurry. I started to feel ashamed of myself. Wasn't I the leader of this expedition?
みゆきちゃんは大丈夫か
Yuki-chan, are you alright?
寒くない
Aren't you cold?
私は平気ですよ。
I'm fine.
龍之介さん、ここも苔がすごいです。
Ryunosuke-san, there's a whole lot of moss right here.
足を滑らせないよう気をつけてくださいね。
Be careful not to lose your footing.
了解おっと
Roger. Whoa! My feet slipped just like earlier, right as I was in the middle of answering. On the other hand, Miki-chan maintained a respectable pace, like she was walking a familiar path. I glanced down at her feet and noticed she was wearing hiking boots. Clearly, she made appropriate preparations for a mountain excursion. I'd expect no less from someone with plenty of experience in Girl Scouts.
お
Oh. After climbing several dozen steps, I was able to see the shrine gate at the top of the stairs. It may have looked quite dignified in the old days, but the frame was miserably dilapidated after years of neglect and weather exposure.
まさか壊れて崩れたりしないよな
It's not going to break apart and collapse or something, is it? I timidly looked up at the shrine gate as I continued walking forward. In the next moment, plop. I heard a single footstep from behind my back. I turned back, but nobody was there.
どうしたんです？
Something wrong?
いや別に
No, just nothing. Yuki-chan had already passed through the gate, but she must have noticed that I stopped moving. She looked back and asked about it, but I brushed her off with a vague answer. Yuki-chan is walking in front of me, so those footsteps I heard couldn't be hers.
気のせいだ
It must be my imagination. I said that to myself as I walked through the gate and entered the shrine grounds. Plop, plop, plop. Again. Yuki-chan and I should be the only ones walking through the grounds. Then, what on earth are those footsteps? These footsteps.
あそこに見えるのは本殿ですね。
The main shrine is up ahead.
あ
Ah, I see.
ああそこに誰かいるなんてことはないよな
So there shouldn't be anyone over there, right?
一応確かめておきましょう。
Let's give it a look to make sure. As Miki-chan said that, she turned and began walking toward the offering box, so I followed behind her. Plop, plop, plop. I began to feel frustrated that the constant footsteps seemed to mock me. It's probably just an echo. But even so, my mind focused behind me as I continued walking forward. Definitely felt like something was going on. Plop, 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 sploosh! Ugh! I stepped into a puddle. I wasted so much attention on what was happening behind me that neglected the ground by my feet.
散々だよ
Oh, that was stupid of me. Huh? Whoa. I sighed pathetically while turning my gaze down toward the puddle by my feet and was suddenly startled. My feet were deep in a pool of blood, and beside my feet, is that a person lying there? It was a girl. The corpse of a young girl with her abdomen torn open was lying there. and her eyes looked like glass as they stared off vacantly. The body was partially obscured by the shadows of crow feathers scattered around it. And then, all around me, I heard the sound of elderly people chanting a prayer. It's as if... Ryunosuke-san? Miyuki-chan turned back to me as soon as she noticed the commotion.
どうしました?
What's wrong?
みゆきちゃんこれ
Miyuki-chan, this is...
これ?
This? Miyuki-chan quizzically turned her flashlight down toward my feet. The only thing down there was a puddle.
あれ
Huh? The girl I saw lying there a moment ago was gone. I examined the puddle once more, and then the hem of my pants. My pants were plenty soaked, but it wasn't in blood.
龍之介さん、大丈夫ですか?
Ryunosuke-san, are you alright? Yeah. The rain started coming down even heavier, and the raindrops vigorously slammed into the ground all around us. The cloud cover was so thick that the surrounding area was completely swallowed by the darkness. I couldn't see anything. I started to calm down and carefully trace my flashlight along my surroundings, but nonetheless, I couldn't see anything noteworthy.
どうしたんですか、龍之介さん?
Well, what's wrong, Ryunosuke-san?
顔が真っ青ですよ.
You look pale.
ねいや
It's nothing.
幻覚見ちまったみたいでさ
I was just hallucinating.
幻覚?
Hallucinating? Mika-chan seemed surprised and started intently surveying our surroundings. But the pounding rain seemed to eliminate any indications.
どんな幻覚ですか?
What kind of hallucination was it?
人? それとも
A person? Or maybe...
いやごめん
Oh, it's nothing. Sorry.
俺の気のせいかもな
It was just my imagination. Maybe a trace amount of light poured between the clouds and illuminated the shrine gate or something, and I caught its reflection in the puddle. But could that explain the red hue of the blood? And what of the girl's corpse on the ground? Was it really a hallucination?
龍之介さん、
Ryunosuke-san?
幻覚を見ることってよくあるんですか?
Is it normal for you to hallucinate like this?
まさか
No way!
そんなものが見えるほど不健全な生活は送ってないっての
My life isn't that messed up.
そうですか。
Is that so?
なんだか気味が悪いですね。
Well, it is a bit creepy. I struggled to find the words, so I couldn't say anything. But that vision I saw earlier may have stuck with me.
奴らの気配はないか。
Well, there's no sign of them.
奴らって
Huh? Them?
あ、いえ、なんでもないです。
Oh, it's nothing. A moment after Miyuki-chan said that,
先を越せたか。
maybe they beat us here. A wicked smile floated across her face, and her eyes began to shine. What was that smile just now? I couldn't understand what Miyuki-chan was trying to say, and who was she talking about when she said them. I looked down at the puddle once more. No matter how I shined my flashlight on it, I couldn't see anything reflected in the water.
行きましょう、龍之介さん。
Let's get going, Ryunosuke-san. Ryunosuke-san. Sometimes I say it better than other times. Okay. What was that smile earlier? Feels like strange things have started happening since we arrived in Hinamizawa. And those unfortunate events were what caused this change in her. But if that's the case, am I next?
まさかまさかな
No way. Impossible. I started walking forward to shake off the ridiculous ideas running through my head. Just then, I noticed a large broken lantern lying on the ground with some characters scrawled on the side.
わた流し
Wata Nagashi.
ひなみ沢の村祭りのことですね。
It's a festival in Hinamizawa.
どうやら村祭りがここで行われていたようです。
Apparently they held the festival right here.
神社の境内でか
Inside the shrine grounds, huh?
当時は賑やかだったんだろうな
I bet it was pretty lively back then.
ここってちょっとした公共施設だったみたいですよ。
It seems like this was a publicly accessible location.
きっとこの集会所では村のイベントやお稽古ごとの教室なども開かれていたんでしょう。
Wait, why did that pop up? I didn't press a button, I swear. Oh no, there's a ghost in my computer. I was literally, my hands are off my PC there, and then it just brought up the log for some reason. There's a ghost. Okay. This assembly hall was probably used for village events and classroom activities.
へえ、なるほどね。
Wow, I see. Though I said that, I wasn't particularly interested in Muki-chan's explanation. After all, I knew all that before coming here. Of course, it wouldn't be so strange for her to know something about this that I didn't know. It might be arrogant of me to say, but I did do a fair amount of research on Hinamizawa beforehand, and I'm proud of the information I managed to gather. So, how could this woman named Miyuki Sorimachi have gathered so much information beyond what I could find? Moreover, Miyuki-chan described it in a way that seemed like a local describing current events. Like a resident of this village was giving a tour to a group of outsiders. Though I felt bad for doing it, I was gradually starting to feel suspicious of her. Miyuki-chan first finished making an offering, then began walking toward the assembly hall, leaving me behind.
こっちに集会所があるはずです。
The assembly hall should be over this way.
どうしました、龍之介さん。
What's wrong, Ryunosuke-san?
みゆきちゃんってこの村のことずいぶん詳しいんだね。
Miyuki-chan, you know an awful lot about this village.
ええ、まあ
Yeah, I guess.
私もまた聞きですからよく知りませんけどね。
But it's all secondhand information, so I don't know it all that well. How much of that was the truth? Felt like my heart was going to be crushed by the wave of doubt swelling inside. Miyuki-chan and I came to a halt after walking around the corner. Even though there shouldn't be anyone in the assembly hall, I noticed a light leaking out through the front door.
誰かいますね。
Someone is inside.
だな。
Seems like it.
もしかしてさっきの車の持ち主かな。
Maybe it's the owner of the car we found earlier.
さあどうでしょうか。
Well, it might be. Yuki-chan and I tried to assess the situation, but it was difficult to tell from here.
あの明かりさっき高台から見えたやつかな。
I wonder, is this the same light I saw from the hill earlier?
おそらく。
Probably.
しばらく様子を見た方がいいんじゃない。
Maybe we should do some reconnaissance.
様子ってそれじゃ集会所には行かないってことですか。
Reconnaissance? Then you're saying we shouldn't go inside?
ああ、その方が。
Right. That way. Clatter. I heard something fall to the ground inside the assembly hall. And then, a woman's voice. But I couldn't make out what she was saying.
行ってみましょう。
Let's go.
行ってみるって。
Go where?
集会所の中にです。
Inside the assembly hall.
ちょっと確かめてみても損はないと思いますよ。
I don't think there's any harm in taking a quick peek. Yeah, what's the worst that could happen? Trick question. A lot of bad things can happen. Yuki-chan put a hand on the assembly hall door as she said that. So, I quickly reached out and grabbed her hand.
ちょっと待った。
Oh, wait a minute. Huh?
幽霊とかだったらどうするんだよ。
What if it's a ghost? Are you prepared for that? That's what I'm saying. It's gonna be a ghost. I want all club ghost members.
はい。
Huh? Miyuki-chan let out a light sigh and looked at me. Then she gave me a bewildered look and clearly said, "What are you talking about?"
その
Oh, I mean...
だから
Anyway.
まあその可能性も確かにありますが、
Well, that certainly is a possibility.
幽霊なのかそうでないのかは確かめてみなくちゃわからないでしょ。
But we have to determine if it's a ghost or not somehow, don't we?
そりゃそうだけど。
Well, yes, but... It's not that I'm scared. Don't put in the paper that I'm scared. I was just thinking, we need to stay cautious and choose the best possible course of action here. Because I'm not afraid. I'm definitely not afraid.
幽霊だったら 私が殴り倒してあげます。
If it's a ghost, I'll just have to take him down.
ドア開けますよ。
Now, I'm opening the door.
あ、おい。
Hey! However, my objections were completely ignored. Miyuki-chan was brave enough to slide the assembly hall door open in one quick pull. Creak. That moment, I felt something jabbing into my throat. And the next moment, someone jumped in from the side and pushed me away. It was Miyuki-chan. As I staggered to regain my footing, I caught a glimpse of a kimono sleeve in front of me.
It's...
Ow. Ow. Oh shit! Is that Akane? I lightly what is she here? I lightly rubbed my hip where I was hit. Then a frightening look ran across my face as I realized what was happening. Just a slightly older Akane. A woman in a kimono was standing in the shadow of the doorway, in a blind spot that couldn't be seen from the entrance. There was a magical atmosphere about her that didn't feel of this world. A ghost? The word came to mind, but I couldn't bring myself to speak it. She pointed the tip of a slender object straight toward Miyuki-chan. Was that what was pressed against my throat earlier?
Miyuki-chan.
Miyuki-chan. I mean, timeline-wise, I'm trying to think, like, I said Akane. There's no way in hell this ends up being, like, old, like, Mion or Shion. Because timeline-wise, that wouldn't have aged them that much. Assuming that I'm able to gather, I think this is just slightly older Akane. Miyuki-chan was standing directly across from the woman and staring straight at her. Miyuki-chan and the woman continued their motionless confrontation for a while longer, and the woman was the first to open her mouth.
あんたたち、何問題?
Who are the lot of you?
いや、
Oh, her deep, powerful voice left me awe-stricken. I shrank back. However, Miyuki-chan stood resolute and maintained her composure.
こういう場合は先に名乗るのが礼儀でしょ.
Isn't it common courtesy to introduce yourself first in situations like this?
ほう。
Oh.
別に怪しいものじゃないです。
We're nothing to be afraid of.
これ下げてもらえませんか?
Would you mind lowering that? After letting out a quick sigh, the woman pulled the slender object back and slid it under her armpit. Her sharp eyes darted back and forth between Miyuki-chan and me. Eventually, the tension in her face relaxed.
なんであんたみたいなのがこんなお姉さんと一緒にいるんだろうね.
I wonder what someone like you is doing here with a respectable young lady like her.
それ、どういう意味で?
What is that supposed to mean? The woman in the kimono didn't answer me. She simply chuckled to herself quietly. And Miyuki-chan seemed unstirred by this woman's perplexing reaction.
夜分にすみませんが、電話をお借りしたいんですけど。
Sorry for barging in so late, but we need to make a phone call.
よろしいでしょうか?
Would that be alright?
電話?
Phone call.
バカをおいでないよ.
What a foolish thing to say.
こんな村に電話なんてあるわけないだろ?
Did you really think that there were working phones in this village?
ここをどこだと思ってるんだい?
Where do you think you are?
ひなみ沢は知っての通り、廃村だよ.
You must know. Hinamazawa is a ghost town. Now, I'm making a lot of conjectures here, but while the look of the sprite reminds me of Akane, just the speaking mannerisms does sound like a slightly older, like, just straight up Mion. And obviously I know they're related, so you could really swing either way. But I can't tell where I'm misplacing. I'm misplacing some kind of information. It's clear that it is either Mion or Akane or I guess outside chance Shion or whatever. But like, I don't know if I should trust my thinking of the sprites or, like I said, speaking mannerisms of dialogue here.
ですね.
That's true.
もしかしたらって思ったんですけど.
But we thought it was worth a try.
期待を裏切って申し訳ないね.
Sorry to disappoint.
私が謝ることじゃないんだけどさ.
Well, I'm not actually sorry. The woman in the kimono had relaxed her tension enough to tease us in an affable tone. She was probably close to 40 years old. An inscrutable atmosphere emanated from her entire body, giving her an imposing, dignified presence. She had a lovely color to her skin, but her finely chiseled facial features had me feeling doubts about her background.
とにかく中へお入りよ。
Anyway, let's head inside.
濡れたまんまでそんなところにいたんじゃ風邪ひくよ。
If you stay in a place like this dripping wet, you'll catch a cold.
みゆきちゃん
Miyuki-chan.
じゃあお言葉に甘えて。
In that case, thank you for the invitation. At the woman's request, Miyuki-chan and I walked into the assembly hall. The crumbling wooden frame of the assembly hall smelled faintly of mold. Rain and wind came blowing in through a broken window. Posters and papers were affixed to the pillars and walls here and there. Although it was difficult to make out, I could read the phrases Onigafuchi Guardians and Dam Opposition. According to newspaper articles and other sources I've read, there was a plan to construct a dam in this village a long time ago. The planned dam would have submerged Hinamizawa, but the strong opposition and the murder incidents caused the plan to be suspended. But that topic largely faded away after the great Hinamizawa disaster. I imagine the villagers were sticking these posters to the wall as they discussed the dam construction project and their opposition plans. The struggles that occurred in the Showa era, like the labor striking movement, felt almost as distant as the Industrial Revolution or the dawn of civilization. It felt unnatural to step into a space littered with relics of another era. Somehow it felt like I was stepping into another world.
こっちさ。
This way. As she said that, the woman in the kimono vigorously slid the door inside the hallway open. More random people. Wait, I mean... You know what? I'm not even gonna try to guess. Well, you know what? Let's just wait. Let's just wait for the game to tell me who and what I'm looking at, alright? Because I don't need to be wrong more. Once I saw the assembly hall in front of me, lined in tattered tatami mats, I let out a quiet "ah" in shock. I noticed a man in the room, staring at us with a stagnant look in his eyes. So, a lady in traditional clothing wasn't the only one here. Young guy. Young woman. At any rate, standing around doing nothing wasn't helping anything. So, I stepped one foot into the room, hoping to prompt Miyuki-chan to do the same.
こんばんは。
Good evening!
お邪魔しますね。
Sorry for the disturbance. But Miyuki-chan, with her nerves of steel, stepped into the room and greeted everyone in a lively, cheerful voice that felt entirely out of place. And so, I reluctantly followed behind her. Inside the room, I noticed a young man around 20 years of age and a young woman around the same age or a little older. And the two of them were staring at us like we were suspicious characters. Looking closer, there was one more man sleeping on a futon in the corner of the room. Counting the woman in the kimono, there were 4 people here in total. They didn't stand up or return the greeting in any fashion. They simply continued staring vacantly at us, with their lifeless, ghostly eyes. Feeling creeped out, I quickly turned away and was immediately startled. Whoa! Contrary to her cheerful greeting, Miyuki-chan was monitoring the people in the room with a sharp, bloodthirsty glow in her eyes.
みゆきちゃん
Miyuki-chan. Maybe she noticed me staring. Miyuki-chan turned back to me with a bright smile. What on earth was that face just now?
皆さん、お休みのところすみません。
Everyone, I apologize for the interruption.
お電話をお借りしたいと思ってお邪魔しました。
We needed to make an important phone call, so we had to barge in.
ちょっと失礼しますね。
Could you forgive us? The assembly hall was in disrepair. The tatami mats were tattered, and there were cobwebs stretched all across the furniture. Miyuki-chan scanned the interior of the room, then walked over to a public phone in a corner of the assembly hall, but when she got there, she let out a discouraging sigh.
電話はどうやらこれしかないみたいですね。
Looks like this is the only phone.
だな
Guess so. A vintage pink public phone was laying on the ground covered in dust, and the cord was cut. There was no point in lifting the receiver. It was very clearly dead.
他にはないのかな
Maybe there's another one?
なさそうですけど。
Unlikely.
あんたたち、どこに電話したいんだい？
Just who were you trying to call?
ちょっと
Ghostbusters?
警察に。
Dumb joke. Actually, the police. Huh? The moment Miyuki-chan said that, the two apathetic-looking people suddenly looked up and stared with attention.
警察ってなんで
The police? Why?
人が死んでたんだよ。ここに来る途中で。
On the way here, we discovered several people dead.
車の中で全員座席に座ったまま。
They were all sealed in a car together. Huh?
そんな
It can't be. Everyone in the room gasped in unison. Or, more accurately, all but one. The woman in traditional garb rose to her feet and stood with a piercing gaze in her eyes.
見たんですか
Did you see it?
見たって。
See
何
what?
死体ですよ
The corpses.
本当にみんな死んで
Are they all really dead?
ああ、まあな。
Unfortunately, yes. I hesitated to talk about what I'd seen.
全員綺麗な顔して死んでたぜ。
Everyone inside, with their beautiful faces, they were all dead.
それが
What about it?
いえ
Oh no.
僕死体は苦手だから
I'm just not good with dead bodies myself.
誰も得意なやつなんていねえだろ。
I can't imagine anyone is. Uh,
そうですよね
that's true. Young man let out a forced laugh, then looked down. Maybe it was just poor lighting, but his face looked pale.
どのあたりなんですか
Where did you find it?
その自殺者の車って
The suicide car.
ここからそんなに遠くないとこ。
It wasn't far from here,
だよね、みゆきちゃん。
right, Miyuki-chan?
ええ
Right,
みゆきちゃん
Miyuki-chan.
え
Huh?
はあ早く警察に連絡しないとね
Oh, we need to contact the police right away. Miyuki-chan's voice was unnaturally loud. Has Miyuki-chan been thinking about something completely different this whole time?
あなた方の携帯はダメなんですか
Have you all tried your cell phones?
県外なんですよ
We're out of range.
ねえ龍之介さん
Right, Ryunosuke-san?
あ
Right.
村の電話が一つでも使えればと思って電話を探しに来たんですけど
I thought there might be a working phone somewhere in the village, so we came here looking for one. After Miyuki-chan said that, the young woman pulled out her cell phone and flipped the screen open. Her phone was on a different carrier, so I thought there might be a chance, but in the end, her phone was just as useless. The woman in the kimono pulled out a cell phone of her own and held it up to her ear to check. But after a while, she ended the call and shrugged her shoulders.
かかんないね
Not surprising.
だいたいこんなところで電話なんかつながるわけがないだろ
After all, what would the phone connect to in a place like this? The young woman tried holding the phone at several different angles to get a better signal, but in the end, she shook her head and spoke up.
私のもダメみたいです
Mine too. It's no good.
県外でした
We're out of range. Looking close at the young lady, she was dressed in a fluffy balloon skirt made out of light cotton. It's the kind of casual dress you'd wear in town on a date. She's probably wearing sandals or high heels that match. I couldn't possibly see her wearing hiking boots with that. There were beer cans and snack bags scattered about in front of her. Was she drinking here with the man in the corner of the room and he fell asleep drunk? Going out on a date in a place like this? And not only that, but getting drunk?
どうか
It's
したん
so
です
unheard of. Is something wrong?
あ、いや、なんでもない。
No, it's nothing. Then I noticed a young woman was glaring at me with an unpleasant expression. Maybe she noticed me staring at her. Then she quickly turned her gaze downward and reached for a bag of snacks on the floor. Beside her, a young man was sitting quietly and holding his knees, staring off at the tatami floor in the distance.
あなたはどうですか
How about you? Huh?
乙部さっきからどうしたんだい
Otobe, what happened?
ビクビクして
You look frightened. The woman in the kimono waved her cell phone about as she stared at the man she called Otobe. Otobe. He shrugged his shoulders, then muttered something in an apologetic tone.
すみません。
I'm sorry.
ちょっと考え事を。
I was just doing some thinking.
携帯どうですか？
Your phone. Does it work?
つながりますか？
Can you connect?
ああ、はい。
Right. Okay.
電源入れてみます。
Let me turn it on.
電源切ってたら携帯電話の意味がないんじゃないですか？
Does it really make sense to have a cell phone if the power's off?
それはまあそうですね。
It's You're right. He stared at the woman in the kimono as he said that, and the next moment he looked startled. I wondered what he saw. I turned to see what Otobe was. Otobe. I don't think I can say Otobe. Was looking at, but the woman in the kimono was in the shade, so I couldn't make out her face.
おいお前
Hey, you.
すみません。
Sorry.
電池が切りかかってたんで電源切ってたんですよ僕。
My battery was running out, so I turned the power off. Otobe turned his back to me and blocked the display with both his hands to keep his phone hidden from me. Then he carefully operated the buttons while staring at the screen.
こんな山の中じゃ電話なんてつながるもんじゃないよ。
There's no way your phone will connect this far in the mountains.
沖宮まで行って直接話した方がいいんじゃないのかい？
Wouldn't it be better to travel to Okinomiya, talk to someone directly?
それとも
Or maybe...
あ、僕の携帯アンテナ一本なら立つかも。
my phone has one bar of signal.
マジかよ
Seriously?
うん、大丈夫そうです。
Yeah, looks good.
玄関の方に行けばもっと立つかも。
If I move closer to the entrance, maybe I'll get a better signal. Otobe continued staring at his cell phone as he got up to leave the room. And all the while, Otobe avoided making eye contact with any of us. Eventually, I could hear his voice faintly echoing down the hallway.
もしもし、警察ですか？
Hello? Is this the police?
はい。はい。
Yes. Yes.
おあいつの携帯なんとか繋がったみたいだな。
Ah, somehow his phone was able to connect.
どうやらそうみたいですね。
It certainly seems that way. Yuki-chan was staring intently toward Otobe. For some reason, she didn't look very happy. Was there something troubling about the fact that his phone was able to connect?
みゆきちゃん
Miyuki-chan? Then I noticed that the woman in the kimono was also staring in Otobe's direction as well, with an equally harsh look on her face. And then, Otobe's voice came echoing throughout the assembly hall.
ひなみざわです。
In,
はい。
in Hinamizawa. Yes.
集団自殺で。僕もまた聞きなんでよくわからないんですけど。
Group suicide. I heard it from someone else, so I don't know all the details.
はい。はい。
Yes. Yes. Maybe Otobe was growing uncomfortable with all of us staring at him. He turned completely away from us, bowed down, and began to lower his voice.
とにかくあいつが連絡してくれたならもう大丈夫だな。
Anyway, and then he managed to connect. Everything is going to be alright.
だといいですね。
I hope so. What was that? Yuki-chan's words seemed to have some hidden subtext. Was it just my imagination? The next moment, I heard Otobe shouting, "Ah!"
どうした
What's wrong?
携帯電池切れちゃいました。
My phone. The battery just ran out. Are they lying? Was that just acting? They're all lying. I don't believe him. He wasn't connected to the police. I recognize acting being on the phone when I see it.
すみません。
I'm sorry. Otobe looked upset as he said that, while walking into the room with his cell phone in hand. There definitely wasn't anything displayed on his phone screen.
まあでも途中までは警察と話せたんだし
Even so, you were able to tell the police at least part of the situation.
警察も大体分かってくれただろう。
The police will probably be able to piece it together.
そうですよね。
That's right. Otobe's eyes started shaking erratically as he said that. Does this guy suffer from intense social anxiety? Or maybe...
これで外部と連絡を取る手段は完全に断たれたってことですね。
So now, our only means of contacting the outside world has been cut off.
まあ 夜はどっちみち動けないんだからさ。
Well, we shouldn't move around much in the middle of the night.
のんびりと警察が来るまで待つしかねえよな。
So let's just relax and wait for the police to arrive.
ですね。
I suppose so. Miyuki let out an exasperated sigh as she came back to the room. As I went to take a seat on the tatami mat, a young woman in the balloon skirt moved to the side to clear space. Balloon skirt? I've never heard that phrase before. I don't know fashion. Miyuki-chan took a seat next to her.
それにしてもさ、無人のはずのこの村で少女が5人も顔を揃えるなんて、これはきっと何かのご縁だよね。
At any rate, it's rather odd for there to be 5 people in a village that should be uninhabited.
それじゃあ死者しか住まぬこの村で一夜限りのお付き合いといこうかね。
Then, let us spend this evening together in this village where only the dead dwell. The woman in the kimono grabbed her long rod-shaped object wrapped in cloth and held it under her arm. Then she grabbed a bottle of sake, opened the cap, and held it up. With nothing better to do, I grabbed a sake glass and held it up to receive some, but she quickly swept my hand away. None for you! Huh?
これはそこのお姉さんにだよ。
Damn, this is for the young lady. She looked straight at Miyuki-chan as she said that. Her eyes had an imposing presence.
お、どうも。
Thank you. A courageous grin floated to Miyuki-chan's face as she received a glass of sake and took a sip.
みゆきちゃん。
Miyuki-chan!
ごちそうさまです。
Thank you for the hospitality.
いい飲みっぷりだね。
You look like you know how to handle your drink, huh?
どうも。
Yes, thanks.
それじゃあ、私も。
Let me return the favor. Miyuki-chan poured another glass of sake and held it out to the woman in the kimono.
どうぞ。
Please.
それじゃあせっかくだからいただこうかね。
If you went to all the trouble, I'll have to oblige. The woman in the kimono graciously accepted the glass offered to her.
お酒はお強いんですか？
Can you hold your liquor?
あんたほどじゃないがね。
Not as well as you.
まあ一夜は長い。長いようで短いようで。でね。
Well, the night is young. It may seem long, but not that long. The woman in the kimono's sharp eyes looked like they could see through anything. Felt like her eyes were trying to learn something from Miyuki-chan. But Miyuki-chan wasn't fazed by the woman's gaze. She was confronting her face to face. What's the deal with this woman? Why is she so concerned with Miyuki-chan? And Miyuki-chan is acting the same. It's like the two of them are old acquaintances.
あ、龍之介さん。
Oh, Ryunosuke-san.
私、車から荷物取ってきます。
I'll go get our luggage from the car.
みゆきちゃんはここにいな。
You can stay here, Miyuki-chan.
荷物なら俺が。
I'll handle the luggage.
いいんです。
That's alright.
荷物がいっぱい積んであって、どれがキャンプ道具なのかきっとわからないと思うから。
There's a lot of luggage, and I'm sure you won't be able to tell which are proper luggage and which are camping equipment.
それじゃ。
No one wants to stay in here alone with them. So I'll be going then. Miyuki-chan gently smiled to the woman in the kimono, then quickly rose to her feet. And then she stormed out of the room in a hurry. Miyuki-chan was keeping secrets from me. I was fairly convinced of that. However, I had no idea what they might be. And I had no idea why the woman in the kimono was so interested in Miyuki-chan, despite allegedly meeting her for the first time today. We're in an abandoned village where all the villagers perished in the disaster. The odds of running into someone you know in a place like this are slim. Moreover, what are the odds that a freelance writer from Tokyo would be acquainted with this creepy woman in a kimono at all? I can't say that it's impossible, but the probability seems quite low. And what's more, even if the two of them are acquainted, they're not speaking to each other as such. So, what on earth is going on? On top of that, I'm beginning to doubt that Miyuki-chan is a freelance writer at all.
それじゃとりあえず名前くらい聞いとこうかね。
Then for now, why don't you all introduce yourselves? The woman in the kimono looked directly at me as she asked that. The others followed her lead and started looking at me, like they were all just waiting for me to speak up.
いきなり。俺。
Who, me? That was sudden?
順番に行こうじゃないか。
Shouldn't we go in order?
私たちもさっき来たとこでさ、
We all arrived here earlier,
まだみんな名前も知らない者同士なんだ。
but not all of us know everyone's names. Young woman in the balloon skirt. Every time I get to balloon skirt, I keep wanting to say bathroom skirt. When I'm just reading quickly here. Young woman in the balloon skirt and a young man named Otobe stared vacantly at me. And after their gazes fixated on me, I finally realized. That's it. These people have no light in their eyes. Like ghosts who've lost their souls.
どうしたんだい？
What's wrong?
早く頼むよ。
Please hurry up. And so, at the woman in the kimono's urging, I took a deep breath. Who are these people? I grabbed a can of beer off the floor, pulled the tab, and took a big gulp. The beer was lukewarm, and one of the most disgusting things I've ever tasted. Gross beer. Also, this transition thing is like, seems broken. It's not like loading in. The animation is not loading in properly, it feels. Some tips. Long way to trip and a familiar face. He stayed home all day that day. Lying on the tatami floor, occasionally looking out the window or messing with his cell phone. Not doing much of anything. He wasn't drinking alcohol like usual, but that didn't mean things were safe. So, after finishing the dishes, I carefully chose my words and decided to speak with him.
匠くん?
Takumi-kun? He responded in a weak voice without turning around. I was a little disappointed that he didn't turn around, but no, it's better this way. These days, it's been painful seeing him face to face.
さ、
Well...
昨日職場の人に借りた雑誌にひなみ沢村って場所の紹介が載っててね。
I borrowed a magazine from a coworker yesterday and had an article about a place called Hinamizawa.
そこってだいぶ昔に大災害があってずっと閉鎖されていたんだけど、最近それが解除されたんだって。
It was closed off after a disaster a long time ago, but they recently reopened it.
でね、
So...
恐ろしくて誰も近寄らないって言われてるんだけど、本当は自然がいっぱいで静かないいところらしいの。
People say it's a frightening place to try and avoid it, but in reality it's a nice quiet place surrounded by nature.
景色も良くてよくある観光地みたいに人の手が入ってないから空気もとっても美味しいんだって。
The scenery is wonderful. It's far less crowded than the major tourist attractions. Plus, the fresh air is delicious. Delicious fresh air. Oh, I see.
匠くん、そういう人のいない自然の多い場所って前から好きだって言ってたでしょ。
Takumi-kun... You told me that before. You like places in nature without a lot of people, right?
来週私連休がもらえるから一緒に行ってみないかな。
And I have a long holiday coming up next week, so I was thinking we could go together?
きっとすごくいい気分転換になると思うの。
I think it'll make for a really nice change of pace.
ダメかな。
Don't you think so? The next moment, his body suddenly started to rise up. When I saw it, I immediately held my breath and started to brace myself.
ごめんなさい。
I'm sorry.
別に私匠くんが嫌なら。
I wasn't trying to force something on you, Takumi-kun. Driving.
Eh?
Huh? Are we taking your car? Then it's fine. Yeah. After hearing that, I was able to release a little of the tension and catch my breath. Then he got up, walked right past me, slipped on his shoes, and went off somewhere. Yeah, let's go. To Hinamizawa. Ooh. Awkward. A familiar face. Where did I lose the way? I really did get myself lost in a completely unknown world. Hinamazawa Village. This place became an abandoned ruin after the gas disaster over 20 years ago. After that, everyone is afraid of the mysterious incidents and rumors. Nobody ever goes anywhere near nowadays. It's a ghost town that they even took off the maps. That's right. There's nobody here. That should be, and yet.
No.
What? Up ahead, there was a person dressed in a morning kimono, holding up an umbrella, dripping wet in the middle of the pouring rain. She had a mysterious aura, somewhere between the living and the dead. And I could see a long, slender, cloth-wrapped object bouncing around attached to her back. A pipe? A wooden sword? Or maybe an actual sword? I swallowed my spit and quickly started to lose my resolve. Even from behind, I could tell she was suspicious. I felt the danger in the air.
ここ出るらしいよ。
Apparently ghosts appear here. As I remembered the words I said myself earlier, a chill ran through me, and I began to tremble. What should I do? Even though it's abnormal for another person to be in a place like this, what can I do? Should I say something, or... Just then, the woman in the kimono started walking in the opposite direction of where I stood. When I saw that, I started to panic and suddenly called out, "Wait!" She stopped as requested, but her back was still turned. I could feel the sharp tension coming from behind her back. Bloodlust.
もうやけだ。
Whatever, it's do or die. Since escape was no longer possible, I decided to step forward and speak up.
僕観光でここに来たものなんですけど、
I came here to do some sightseeing,
道に迷って、
but I got lost.
その
And
もしよろしければ人里はどっちの方か教えていただけませんか？
if you don't mind, could you point me in the direction of the nearest town?
人里
Town? I could hear her exhale through her nose, like she was laughing at me, and then,
人里はどちらかと言われたら私の歩いてきた方向が人里だね。
you want to know where to find other people? It's in the direction I'm walking away from.
不慣れなあんたでも歩けば夜明けまでにはたどり着けるんじゃないか？
Even someone unfamiliar with the area like yourself might be able to make it there by dawn. Huh?
もっとも途中で道を間違えて矢後地あたりに迷い込んじまうかもしれないけどね。
Although, you might get lost in Yoigoshi along the way. Wasn't much of an answer, but for now it was a relief just to hear anything at all. Thank goodness. Looks like she's a human, not a ghost.
よろしければ案内してもらえると嬉しいんですが。
If you don't mind, I'd appreciate it if you showed me the way.
冗談を言いでないよ。
Ha! Be serious.
私は自分の用事でここまで来てんだ。
I have business to attend to.
あんたの道案内をしにここまで来てるんじゃないよ。
I'm not here to be your guide.
自分のことは自分でするんだね。
Personal business is one's own business.
村を出たいんならその目的に一生懸命になるといい。
If you want to leave this village, you'll have to put forth the necessary effort.
つまり一生懸命自分一人で道を探して一人で歩いて出て行けってことさ。
In short, you'll have to give it everything you've got on your own if you wish to get out of here. Ah! In other words, she wouldn't be able to do it. So, am I going to be lost here all night?
あなたはどこへ行くんですか？
Where are you going?
この先にある古出神社に用がある。
I have something to take care of at the Furude Shrine up ahead, and...
No. So...
Huh? So... The next moment, she casually turned around to face me eye to eye, and then her eyes suddenly opened wide. And then she fixated on my face as she moved in for a closer look.
サトシ。
Satoshi.
え？
Huh? I didn't know how to respond to a name I didn't recognize. When she said the name, Satoshi, was she talking about me?
サトシなのかい。
Satoshi, is it you?
いえ。
Huh? No.
僕はアキラですけど。
Actually, my name is Akira.
アキラ。
Akira.
はい。乙部アキラです。
That's right. Akira Otobe. I thought it was a case of mistaken identity, so I panicked and said my name again. After hearing that, she quietly gazed at my face for a while, and then she let out a lonely-sounding laugh.
なんだ違うのかい。
Oh, my mistake.
にしても驚いたね。あんた私の昔の友人に瓜二つだよ。
So it is intentional, at least. Okay. I must say, though, I'm surprised. After all, you look just like an old friend of mine.
他人の空にとはよく言ったもんだね。
Suppose it's what they call an accidental resemblance.
そうなんですか。
Really?
別人とはいえ久しぶりに来た村でこんな懐かしい顔に出会えるなんてね。
Even though you're a different person, it's still a treat to see such a familiar face while coming to this village after such a long time.
てっきり幽霊かと思って自分の目を疑っちまったよ。
I thought you might have been a ghost. I doubted my eyes. Right.
それにしてもこの幽霊村で人に出会うこと自体珍しいってのによりにもよって私がサトシニのやつと。
It's surprising enough to run into another person in this ghost town, but for it to be someone who looks just like Satoshi.
こりゃ一体何の偶然なんだかね。
That's one hell of a coincidence. She smiled while carefully watching me with her arms crossed. Though she was smiling, she stared straight at me with a sharp gaze in her eyes, and it made me flinch.
まあいい。これも何かの縁だ。
That's fine. Must be fate.
お前さんが朝まで雨を浴びていたいって言うんじゃなきゃ一緒に来るかい。
I'm sure you don't want to be out in the rain until morning, so would you care to come with me?
いいんですか。
Is that alright?
いいも悪いも私は来るかいって言ってんだ。
It doesn't matter. I asked if you'd like to come with me.
質問を質問で返すんじゃないよ。
Don't answer a question with a question.
あとはあんたの意思次第じゃないかい。
The rest depends on what you want, doesn't it?
ぜひ
Definitely.
ご一緒させてください。
Please, let me come with you. I'm saved. I felt like I was about to burst into dance as I nodded to her over and over. After seeing that, the woman smiled and nodded, then started walking again.
昔のままなら集会所には毛布があったはずだからね。
If it's like the old days, there should be some blankets in the assembly hall.
そのびしょ濡れの上着はそこで乾かした方がいい。
Your jacket is dripping wet, so it'd be best to dry off there.
もっともあれから20年以上も経ってるから屋根が抜けて畳が腐っている可能性もあるけどね。
Of course, it's been over 20 years since then, so there's a chance the roof has collapsed and the tatami mats have gone rotten.
あなたはこの村の人だったんですか。
Did you live in this village?
ああ、そうか。
Oh, that's right.
自己紹介がまだだったね。
I haven't introduced myself yet.
私はミオン。園崎ミオン。
My name is Mion. Mion Sonozaki. I'm trying to think. The time-wise, right? They say it's been over 20 years since the incident. But then they said earlier that this woman maybe just looked like in her 40s. But then Mion wasn't like... She wasn't like past 19 or anything when we... I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking and getting incorrect the time frame thing here. So that's why I was kind of thrown off. But I at least called that the the speaking mannerisms were a lot like Mion and a lot less Akane.
いかにもこの村の住人だよ。
It's just as you suspect. I'm a resident of this village. Mion. So then who's the pink-haired person? We need an ID stat. Let's keep going. I chugged the beer down in one big gulp. The aftertaste was equally terrible. But even so, I belched out the fizz gathering in my throat and eventually found the resolve to push myself forward. I took a deep breath, then pulled a business card out of the notebook in my breast pocket and held it up where everyone could see.
それじゃ、俺から自己紹介。
Alright then, let me start by introducing myself.
名前は荒川龍之介。
My name is Ryunosuke Arakawa.
売れっ子のフリーライターだ。
I'm a well-known freelance writer.
売れっ子ね。
Well known, you say. The woman dressed in traditional clothing chuckled to herself. Oh, shut up. It's the beer talking, okay?
専門はオカルト。
I specialize in matters of the occult.
ちなみに今月号の週刊セブン幽霊村大特集号は俺が書いた。
In fact, this month's issue of the Weekly 7 is the Ghostly Village Special Edition, written by yours truly.
よろしくな。
It's nice to meet you all.
幽霊村の特集？
Ghostly Village Special Edition?
じゃあ、あの記事はあなたが？
So, you're the one who wrote that article? The young woman seemed completely disinterested at first, but she appeared surprised all of a sudden and looked up to respond.
知ってるのかい？
You know of it?
はい、
Yes,
私読みました。
I read it earlier.
僕もその特集号なら読みました。
Same here. I read that special edition too.
結構いろんな場所の話が載ってて面白いなって。
It covered a lot of stories from several different locations. It was really interesting.
そいつはどうも。
Why, thank you.
あれは資料とかの下調べで難儀したからな。
It required a lot of research, so I ran into many difficulties writing it.
そう言ってもらえるとやった甲斐があるよ。
But hearing your praise makes it all worthwhile. Being praised for my articles made me hold my breath up high. Nope. Being praised for my articles made me hold my head up high. But the woman in the kimono had a lukewarm reaction, simply tilting her head to the side as if to say, "Is that so?"
週刊セブン。へえ。
The Weekly 7. Wow.
みんな読んでるなんて、その雑誌すごい人気なんだね。
I suppose that's some popular magazine everyone's reading.
たまにしか読まないんですけど、電車の釣り広告とかで見出しだけは欠かさず見てます。
I don't read it very often, but I do see the headlines on posters in the train station all the time.
今月号はたまたま買っちゃったっていうか。
It was just a coincidence that I happened to buy this month's issue.
もしかしてあんた週刊セブン知らないの？
Could it be... Are you not familiar with the Weekly 7?
聞いたこともないね。
Never heard of it.
本当かよ。
Seriously? Her words stung a bit. The Weekly 7 is a famous gossip magazine that appeals to a wide age range. It's been around since the dawn of the Heisei era, 1989-2019, and it even shows up in TV commercials. It's been providing high-profile coverage of all sorts of issues. This was my first time meeting someone who had never read it, much less never even heard of it. She must be living a life completely disconnected from the outside world.
週刊セブンは釣り広告とか新聞とかでよく宣伝してるから見ればわかると思いますよ。
The Weekly 7 is advertised pretty often on posters and in newspapers, so you've probably never seen it, or you've probably seen it before.
ロゴは確か赤字に白抜きです。
The logo has red text on a white background.
あいにく、そういう広告は記憶に残ってないよ。
Unfortunately, I can't recall seeing any advertisements like that. The woman in the kimono looked puzzled as she said that. How heartbreaking.
驚いたな。 週刊セブンを知らないなんて。
I'm surprised you haven't heard of the Weekly Seven.
雑誌とかはあまり読まないのか？
I guess you don't read many magazines?
そういうわけじゃないけどさ。
I wouldn't say that.
それであんたたちはその記事を見てここへ来たっていうのかい？
So that article is the reason all of you came here?
いえ、
Oh, no.
僕は偶然ですよ。
It's actually just a coincidence that I came here.
私も偶然です。
Me too. It's just a coincidence.
記事を読んでここへ来たわけじゃありませんよ。
The article wasn't the reason I came here. It seemed unnatural for both of them to declare that all at once. And even if it wasn't their primary reason, it would have been good social etiquette to just say, I read the article and it made me more interested in this place.
それじゃあ荒川がここへ来たのは取材か何かってわけかい？
So, Arakawa, take it you came here to do some reporting?
もちろんですよ。
Of course, for the occult. I started to mention the occult special, second edition, but I cut myself off. Given that a group of strangers were gathered together in an abandoned building, the situation was occult enough on its own. And on top of that, all these people have a lifeless look in their eyes.
しかし記者さんか。
So, you're a journalist.
あんたみたいなやつを見てるともう少し自分を大事にしろって言いたくなるよ。
Seeing people like you gives me the urge to tell you to value yourself a little more.
お気遣いどうも。
Thanks for the concern. That seemed like an annoyingly roundabout way of insulting my occupation. Then the woman in the kimono poured herself another cup of sake and pointed her chin toward the young woman.
それじゃあ次はあんたの番だよ。
Alright, you're up next.
お嬢さん。
Miss?
私は十和田です。
Oh, my name is Tawada. Tawada. The young woman looked a little embarrassed as she began speaking, so she lightly lowered her head.
十和田八重って言います。
Yeah. I didn't have to read this. Yeah, Tawada. Let me try it. Here. No, shit. Wait, could I? No.
向こうで寝てるのは私の連れで黒沢匠くんです。
And the man sleeping over there is my companion, Takumi Kurosawa-kun. Alright, let me get...
十和田八重って言います。
Yeah,
向こうで寝てるのは
yeah.
私の連れで黒沢匠くんです。
Try my best. As she said that, she turned back toward the young man sleeping in the corner of the room. He was apparently sleeping quite soundly, so there was no indication he'd be joining this conversation.
ふーん。あんたら夫婦してるのかい？
Are the two of you married?
あ、いえ、違います。
Oh, no, it's not like that.
夫婦とかそんなんじゃないです。
We're not married.
彼は私の彼氏でまだそこまでじゃないっていうか。
We're not married. He's my boyfriend. I guess we're not quite there yet. Tawada-san bashfully waved her arms as she denied that implication. But she definitely said boyfriend, so the relationship has probably been going on for a while.
この村へはドライブで来ました。
We drove here together.
二人で旅行したのは初めてで、ちょっと緊張しちゃって。
This is the first time the two of us have traveled anywhere on our own, so I'm just a little nervous.
匠くんは疲れて今ちょっと寝ちゃってますけど、日帰りのつもりで東京からやってきました。
We came here on a one-day trip from Tokyo, and Takumi-kun was really tired, so he'll probably sleep for a while longer.
あ、学生じゃなくて一応社会人です。
Oh, and I'm not a student. I have a job, at least for now.
よろしくお願いします。
It's very nice to meet you. Tawada-san anxiously said all that in a single breath. She sounded like an audience member on a variety show who was suddenly called onto the stage. I wasn't sure what I should say in response to Tawada-san, so Tobe and I simply lowered our heads a little to acknowledge the greeting.
ドライブってことはデートでここへ来たってことだよな。
You drove all the way here, so did you come here on a date?
そうですけど。
Yeah, is that weird?
いや、
No,
村人が全員死んだっていう廃村にデートしに来るなんて変わってるなって思ってさ。
I just thought it was a little unusual to have a date in a ghost town where an entire village died.
そうですか。
Oh, really? Tawada-san looked upset as she stared at me. Well, makes sense if they're the sort of couple who likes to visit occult spots together. There's plenty to be curious about here. But for some reason, that just didn't feel right. She didn't look like the sort of girl who would go out drinking with a man in a place like this.
まあ人それぞれさ。
Well, teach their own.
にしても彼女を置いて男は先に酔いつぶれてグースか寝ちまったのか。
But even if that means leaving your girl behind and passing out drunk?
こんな村で可愛い彼女を残して高いびきだなんて。
Such a shame, leaving a pretty girl alone in a village like this.
たく彼氏ってのは気楽なもんだね。
He must be an awfully careless boyfriend. The woman in the kimono slowly turned to the sleeping young man as she said that. However, Taoda-san simply gave a vague smile.
ちょっと長旅だったもので。
It was kind of a long trip.
まあいいさ。
Well, that's fine.
あんたも飲みなよ。
You should have a drink.
はい。
Oh, sure. As the woman in the kimono prompted, Taoda-san took a sip of her oolong tea. The liquor bottle was still over half full. Despite all the beer cans littered on the floor, only one had traces of lipstick on the mouth. The sake bottle the woman in the kimono had been guzzling down was only recently opened, so Taoda-san probably hadn't had much alcohol at all. Meanwhile, Otobe has been anxiously fidgeting his fingertips the whole time while listening to our exchange.
乙部。ほら、あんたも食べな。
Otobe, here, you should eat this.
あ、はい。
Huh? Oh, okay.
イカですか。
Is this squid?
なんだい。イカは嫌いかい？
What? You don't like squid?
いえ、
Not really.
だったら食べな。
That's why you should eat it.
しっかり食べてないから、そんなに青っちょろくなっちまうんだよ。
Forcing yourself to eat something you don't like will allow you to appreciate it more.
ああ。
Huh?
ほら、しっかり食べな。
Here, eat it.
ほら、ほらほらほら。
And here. And here.
ちょっと。
Otobe sat there bewildered as the woman in the kimono gently piled bags of dried squid in his hands.
いただきます。
Thank you for the food.
あ、うまい。
It's good.
だろ。
See? As soon as Otobe spoke favorably of the dried squid, the woman in the kimono gave a satisfied nod. Anyway, there was something warm about the way the woman in the kimono looked at Otobe. How on earth are the two of them connected?
ところで乙部、
By the way, Otobe,
あんたも野球か何かやってんのかい？
are you into playing baseball or anything like that? Huh?
僕はそういうのは。っていうか、僕運動とかは全然。
I don't like exercise at all. What made you think that?
そこまでは一緒じゃないか。
That's one thing you don't have in common.
確かに野球とかやってそうには見えないもんね。
I certainly can't picture you playing baseball.
何のことだよ。
What are you talking about? I cut in on her conversation to ask about it. Based on the way she was talking to him, could these two be somehow acquainted?
ああ、いや、その。
No,
僕、知り合いに似ているみたいなんです。
I apparently remind her of an old acquaintance.
知り合い？
An acquaintance?
ひょっとして共通の知り合い？
So the two of you have a common friend?
そんなんじゃないよ。
That's not it.
私の知り合い、サトシってんだ。
The person I'm thinking of was a guy named Satoshi.
もう20年以上も前の話だよ。
But that was over 2 decades ago,
それにサトシはもうとっくに死んじゃってるからね。
and he died a long time ago. Based on the tone of her voice, she seemed quite fond of this Satoshi.
僕もよくは知らないんですけど、いい人だったみたいです。
I don't know much about him, but he sounds like a nice person.
もちろんさ。
Of course.
こう言っちゃなんだけど、サトシはあんたなんかよかずーっとしっかりしてたよ。
I hate to say it, but he had a much more steadfast resolve than you.
すみません。
I'm sorry.
ふん。
Hmm.
ところであんたらはどういう知り合い？
By the way, how did the two of you know each other?
この村へ着いてすぐに会ったんです。
We met shortly after I arrived in this village.
だから僕はあまり。
So I don't really... Something about the tone of his voice irritated me. I'm no good at dealing with people who can't act their age. In fact, I straight up dislike them.
あんた名前は？
So, what's your name? That's why my voice grew harsher, even though I knew I was being childish. Otoe jumped in a panic, then scrambled to sit the bags and his hands down on the tatami mat.
すみません、自己紹介が遅れました。
Sorry for not introducing myself sooner.
僕は乙部明。僕もドライブできました。
My name is Akira Otobe. I drove here, too. Otoe suddenly responded in a trembling voice, like a street interviewer had abruptly handed him the microphone. This guy, too. Honestly, I find it hard to believe such a timid young man would come here on his own. As I pondered that, Otobe returned to avoid eye contact, and then he resumed fidgeting uncomfortably.
あんたもこんなとこにドライブかよ。
So, you drove all the way out here?
一人で？
On your own?
いえ、
No,
その、いろいろあって、
well, things happened,
友達とはぐれてしまったんです。
and I got separated from my friends.
はぐれた？
Separated?
はい。
Right.
はぐれたって？
You got
Nanda.
separated? How? Despite my piling inquiries, Otobe simply turned his head downward and remained silent. Oh, this is bad. Maybe I came on too strong and questioned him a bit too harshly. With that in mind, I cleared my throat and began to say something to calm him down and urge him to continue. And then?
途中でみんな消えてしまったんです。
On the way here, they all disappeared.
は？
Huh? The moment Otobe said that, the assembly hall fell completely silent.
消えた？
They disappeared?
消えたってどういうことですか？
What do you mean they disappeared?
おいおい、いきなり百物語か？
Hold on. Why are you suddenly turning this into a ghost story?
そういう話はもう少し場が温まってから。
This isn't the place for something like that.
そんなんじゃないんです。
That's not it.
本当なんですよ。
It really happened. Whoosh. Otobe slammed the floor with his fist and turned to me with a serious look in his eyes. Once I saw that, I stopped making fun of him and urged him to continue.
どういうことなんだ？
Then, what do you mean?
説明してくれ。
Explain yourself.
今朝東京出て、僕たち山沿いの道をずっと走ってたんです。
We left Tokyo this morning and traveled all the way here through the mountains.
運転は友達がしてました。
A friend of mine handled the driving.
それでしばらくして、この村全体がよく見えるようなちょっと見晴らしがいいところに出たんです。
So after a while, we came to a place with a nice view of the entire village. For people used to city life, the scenery certainly does look picturesque. If they arrived in the afternoon when it wasn't raining, it would make sense to stop the car and take a look around.
そこでちょっとトイレ休憩でもしようってことになって、
And while we were there, I decided to take a quick bathroom break.
僕は用を足そうと思って茂みの方に行って、
I went into the woods looking for a good spot.
その後戻ってきたら
But when I
みん
came
ないなくなっていて、
back, everyone was gone.
車ごとなくなっていたんです。
Even the car had disappeared. With so little context, the story was hard to believe. Besides,
それってさ、言っちゃ悪いけど、
this sounds terrible to say, but
あんた友達に置いてかれたんじゃねえの？
is it possible that your friends left you behind?
友達はさ、あんたを怖がらせようとしてんじゃね？
Maybe your friends were just trying to scare you. Huh?
どんな友達だか知らないけどさ、
I don't know what kind of people your friends are.
友達はひょっとしてまだその辺に隠れてて、あんたが一人で怖がってるのを楽しんでるんじゃねえの？
But maybe they're still hiding out there, having fun watching you scared and alone.
そんなはずありませんから。
That's not possible. Tobe smacked his dried squid on the floor and looked at me directly in the eyes.
僕の友達はそんな意地悪じゃありません。
My friends would never do something so awful.
勝手なこと言わないでください。
Now please, stop speaking so disrespectfully.
だよな。悪い悪い。
Alright, sorry.
いちいちムキになるなって。可能性の話をしてるだけ。
No need to get riled up, just throwing it out there, that's all.
僕は車のすぐ近くで用を足していたんです。
I didn't go far from the car. I went straight back afterwards.
でも 走り去るエンジンの音は聞こえなかった。
But I couldn't even hear the sound of the engine. Otobe was so upset that his shoulders were moving up and down as he breathed. He seemed outraged by the mere suggestion of doubting his friends. Was that really something to get so mad about?
それじゃあ本当に車が忽然と消えてしまったってことですか？
Then, the car really did disappear all of a sudden?
友達も一緒に？
Along with your friends?
でもそんなのちょっと信じられないけど。
That's a little hard to believe.
僕にだってわけがわからないですよ。
I feel the same way. I don't understand the meaning of this.
それでパニックって友達とか車とか探してあちこち走り回っているうちに崖から足を滑らせていよいよ道に迷ってしまったんですよ。
So I started to panic and ran around searching for my friends in the car, and I slipped and slid down a cliff and lost my way. Tawada-san and I remained silent as Otobe was getting excited right in front of us. He seems completely different from earlier, so I get the feeling he's not lying. What the hell is going on here? The next moment... The woman in the kimono lightly chuckled as she poured herself a third glass of sake.
なんだよ。
What is it?
大したことないよ、そんなの。
That sort of thing isn't a big deal. Huh?
どういう意味ですか？
What is that supposed to mean? The three of us stared at the woman in the kimono all at once. She gave us all a huge sweet grin and then spoke.
3人ともこの村の住人じゃないからね。
The three of you aren't from this village,
知らないのも無理はないか。
so there's no way you could possibly know. Huh?
それはね、鬼隠しって言うんだよ。
I'm talking about Onikakushi. Onikakushi? As a matter of fact, I have heard of that. Indeed. It's a story passed down in Hinamazawa since ancient times.
この辺りにはね、昔から人が忽然と消えることがあるんだよ。
For a long time, people in this area have been known to suddenly disappear.
それをこの村じゃ鬼隠しって言うんだ。
This village came to refer to that as Onikakushi, or being demoned away.
でもそれっていわゆる神隠しですよね。
But that's usually referred to as being spirited away.
なんで鬼隠しって言うんですか？
So, why would they call it demoned away instead? Tawada-san timidly chimed in with a question, but the woman in the kimono didn't answer and simply smiled to herself. The silence was growing awkward, so I jumped in to provide an explanation.
この村はさ、昔鬼ヶ淵村って呼ばれてたんだ。
Long ago, this village was referred to as Onigafuchi Village.
鬼ヶ淵。
Onigafuchi?
村の名前ともなった沼の底は鬼の住んでる地獄の世界とつながっていたっていう言い伝えがあってさ。
Legends say the village was named as such because the bottom of the swamp was connected to the realm of demons.
その沼は海より深いと噂され、飲み込まれればそのまま黄泉の底まで沈んでいくと伝えられる底なしの沼だった。
The swamp was allegedly deeper than the ocean, a bottomless swamp where anything that sank within was swallowed by hell itself.
その沼の名前が鬼ヶ淵。
Hence the name, Onigafuchi.
それじゃあここに書いてある鬼ヶ淵っていうのは。
So then, this name written here, Onigafuchi.
そう、それよ。
That's right.
ひなみ沢村って名前に改称されたのは明治の頃。
The village's name was changed to Hinamazawa during the Meiji era.
それまではこの村は鬼ヶ淵村って言われてたんだ。
Up until then, this village was known as Onigafuchi Village. Upon hearing that word, Otobe looked up at the Onigafuchi Guardians poster stuck to the wall. One day, demons emerged from the swamp one after another. Demons came overflowing from hell. The villagers believed as much, and they were absolutely terrified. The demons came forth from the swamp and attacked the villagers without mercy. The humans were powerless before the demons. The villagers were confused, frightened, and at a loss for what to do. They had no choice but to flee. If things continued like that, the village would be destroyed by the demons. But just as the villagers were ready to give in, a god descended, Oyashiro-sama.
お社様ってのは慈愛に満ちた神様でさ。
This god they called Oyashiro-sama was a compassionate deity.
鬼たちは村人を襲うのをやめてその意向にひれ伏し素直にお社様の言葉に従ったんだと。
The demons ceased their attack on the villagers and bowed down at the behest of Oyashiro-sama's orders.
それじゃあ鬼たちはおとなしく地獄に帰ったんですか？
And then, the demons quietly returned to hell?
そうなりゃいいんだけど鬼にも事情があったみたいでさ。
It would have been nice if that was the case, but seems the demons had circumstances of their own.
彼らは地獄を追放された鬼たちだったもんで帰る場所なんてないとお社様に泣きついたそうだ。
These demons were allegedly exiled from hell, cried out to Oyashiro-sama that they had no place to return to. Across both hell and the human world, these demons had no place to call home. And so, Oyashiro-sama decreed that the demons and villagers must find the means to coexist.
お社様は鬼に人間の姿を与え村人と共存できるように計らったんだと。
Oyashiro-sama gave the demons human form to allow them to coexist with the villagers.
その後人と鬼の根血が進みこの村は半人半鬼の住む村になっていったんだ。
After that, the humans and demons mated, and this village came to be home to half human, half demons. I stopped myself right there, cleared my throat, and then continued in a low voice.
で問題はここから先なんだけどさ。
But the problem is what came after that.
問題？
Problem?
鬼は鬼でもそいつら人食い鬼だったんだよな。
These weren't just any demons. They were man-eating demons.
ってことは
No way.
人食い鬼は人間の姿を与えられていても所詮鬼だ。
Even though these man-eating demons were given human form, they were still demons at their core.
何かのきっかけで衝動的な人狩りの本能を抑えられなくなることもある。
Deep down, their instinctual desire to hunt humans was still there, and that desire could be triggered any time.
人間と交わって血が薄まったって鬼としての本能は DNA に刷り込まれてる。
Their blood may have been diluted by crossing with human blood, but that demon instinct was ingrained in their DNA.
だからといって村人同士で共食いするわけにはいかない。
Yet, it was impossible for them to openly cannibalize their fellow villagers.
だから彼らは時期を決めて定期的に人里へ降りて
So, they would come down from their hometown on a regular basis and...
まさか人をさらって。
No way. They kidnap people? Rather than reply, I simply nodded silently. Indeed, based on how the story had progressed so far, it was easy to see the rest. In other words, the people who were demoned away were in fact victims of this habitual demon hunt.
さすがオカルトライターとやらは詳しいね。
That was rather thorough, as expected of an occult writer.
こっちが感心しちまうほどよく調べてあるよ。
You've done an admirable job investigating.
そりゃどうも。
Why, thank you.
ま、その記者さんの言う通りさ。
Well, it's just as the reporter says.
それが鬼隠しってやつだよ。
That's what being demoned away means.
鬼にさらわれ食べられる。
Being abducted by demons so they can feed on you?
まあそんなとこ。
Well, something like that.
昔は鬼ヶ淵村の村人たちが人里に押し寄せ哀れな生贄を無理やり力ずくでさらったなんて言われてる。
It's said that in the old days, the villagers of Onikafuchi descended upon human settlements and captured pitiful sacrifices by force.
お社様はどうしたんですか？
What happened to Oyashiro-sama?
今度は仲裁してくれないんですか？
Why didn't Oyashiro-sama step in?
人さらいはお社様公認さ。
The kidnappings were done with Oyashiro-sama's blessing.
お社様はこの村の守り神だからな。
After all, Oyashiro-sama is the guardian deity of this village.
村人が平和に暮らしていければ問題なし。
If the villagers could live together peacefully, there wouldn't be a problem.
人と鬼が仲良く暮らすためには犠牲が出るのは仕方ないことだってお社様も割り切っていたっつうわけ。
But Oyashiro-sama recognized that these sacrifices were necessary for the humans and demons to cohabitate.
ひどい話ですね。
That's horrible.
誰かが生きるためには多少の犠牲は仕方ないだなんて。
Having no choice but to sacrifice someone in order to keep on living?
そうやって生贄をさらってきた夜にはその儀式として 綿流しとかいうものが開かれたって話もある。
There is another story about the Wadnagashi ceremony, which is held on the night of sacrifice.
綿ってのは人間の内臓のことな。
But the wata actually refers to human organs.
まあどこまで本当かは知らないが。
Well, I'm not sure how much of that is actually true. As soon as I said that, I took a deep breath and looked at everyone around me.
それじゃあ乙部君の友達は鬼隠しにあって今頃は人食い鬼の生贄に。
Then, you're saying Otoe-kun's friends were demoned away? As sacrifice to man-eating demons?
信じられない話だが、実際にそんなことがあっちゃ信じないわけにはいかねえよな。
It's an unbelievable story, but if something like that were to actually happen, you'd have to believe it, wouldn't you?
少なくとも乙部の友達は何らかの怪異に巻き込まれて消えたんだから。
At the very least, Otoe's friends were involved with something mysterious that caused them to disappear.
ちょっと待ってくださいよ。
Hold on.
まだ決まったわけじゃないでしょ。
We still don't know for sure.
友達は絶対生きてますよ。
My friends are definitely still alive, okay?
ごめんなさい。
I'm sorry.
縁起でもないこと言って。
I was careless of me to say.
言い方がまずかったな。悪い。
Sorry, that was a poor choice of words.
まだそうと決まったわけじゃないよな。
This still isn't for sure. Otoe clenched his fists and then sat back down where he was, still possessed by excess discord with no outlet. In doing so, he seemed to recognize the futility of his behavior, and instead focused his energy on believing in their survival.
友達ってどんなやつだったの？
So, about your friends. What kind of people were they? Huh?
明日一緒に探してやるよ。
Let's search for them together, tomorrow.
いいですよ。
That's not necessary.
自分で探しますから。
I can search for them on my own.
よくねえよ。
That's no good.
大事な友達なんだろ。
These are your precious friends, right?
鬼なんかに食われてたまるかよ。な。
You don't want them getting eaten by demons, right?
そうよね。
Of course not. Right. Toda-san meekly chimed in with a pale look on her face and both her arms crossed. I guess she imagined the content of our earlier conversation.
その友達と仲は良かったんだろ。
These friends of yours, you were close, right?
ええ、まあ
Yes,
それはそれなりには。
yeah, I think so. However, Otobe continued looking down, trying to avoid eye contact. Come on, what happened to your enthusiasm from before?
乙部
Otobe!
はい。
Yes?
どうしたんだい？
What's wrong?
顔が真っ青だよ。
You look pale.
いや、その
Oh,
そんな
No,
ことないですよ。
it's not like that. The woman scooted closer to Otobe on the tatami mat and said, "Is that so?" while giggling and pinching his cheeks.
あんたもしかして鬼隠しにビビってんのかい？
Could it be? Are you afraid of being demoned away?
そんなんじゃ。
No way.
そうだよね。
Is that so?
いいっていいって。
It's fine, it's fine.
まあ仕方ないさね。
Well, can't be helped.
こんな状況だ。怖がらない方が異常ってもんさ。
That's the situation we're in. It'd be stranger if you weren't afraid.
すぐ近くでなくても同じ村の中に死人がいるんだから。
After all, even if they're not nearby, there are plenty of people who've died in this very village. Those words suddenly reminded me of the suicide victims I encountered earlier. Otobe and Toda-san both looked distraught as they turned their gaze downward.
あんたさ、ちょっと不謹慎じゃねえの？
Hey, aren't you being a bit hasty here?
こいつの友達が鬼隠しっていうか、ただちょっとはぐれてるだけだってのにさ。
Isn't it a stretch to suggest that his friends were demoned away simply because he got separated from them?
そうだよね。
Of course.
ただちょっとはぐれてるんだよね。
He simply got separated from them.
ねえ、乙部。
Isn't that right, Otobe?
まあどっちみちここからじゃ歩いて帰るわけにもいかないしな。
Well, anyway, can't exactly walk home from here.
明日俺たちの車に乗っけてってやろうか。
Would you like to ride back with us tomorrow?
いいですよ別に。
Oh, that's okay. You don't have to.
いいってなんだよ。
What's wrong? I said it was okay.
別に遠慮はいらねえぞ。
There's no reason to hold back.
いや本当に。
No, really. Otobe stubbornly refused and hung his head. Was he just being timid? Or was my kindness unwelcome?
荒川さんとやら
Arakawa-san,
おせっかいはよしなよ。
no need to be so pushy. While I struggled to size up Otobe's true intentions, the woman in the kimono interrupted.
この村じゃ人が消えることなんてよくあること。
In this village, it's commonplace for people to disappear.
特に騒ぐようなことじゃないのさ。
It's nothing to get flustered about.
さてと
And, well,
すっかりごちそうになっちまったね。
I'm about done here. The woman in the kimono showed little regard for me as she finished her glass of sake, then quickly rose to her feet. And then she slowly began walking towards the hallway.
おいあんたちょっと待てよ。
Hey, you! Hold on! I scrambled to get up and chase after her.
待てってばおい。
Hey! I said wait!
なんだい
What is it? I saw the pristine white nape of her neck from her loose collar before she slowly turned back to me. The gesture looked so unexpectedly beautiful that it didn't belong in this world.
なんだいって自己紹介。
What is it, you ask? You haven't introduced yourself.
まだなのはあんただけでしょうが。
You're the only one who still hasn't.
あんたの素性が一番気になってんのよ。
And you're the one I'm most curious about. A suspicious woman in a kimono, bathed in an unreadable aura. And she spoke of being demoned away, which of course only people from Hinamazawa should know about. Who on earth is this woman? The woman let out a small sigh, then turned her eyes my way.
私の名は園崎美音。
My name is Mion Sonozaki.
ここひなみ沢村の住人だよ。
I'm a resident of Hinamazawa Village. Huh?
園崎ってまさかあの園崎か。
Sonozaki? No way, as in that Sonozaki?
どの園崎でもいいだろう別に。
Doesn't matter which Sonozaki I am. This woman, Sonozaki-san, quickly made her way down the hallway after saying that. The last name itself wasn't particularly rare, but within Hinamazawa, it took on a special connotation. So, I couldn't suppress my astonishment for having met a person like that completely by coincidence.
あの
Hey,
ミオンさんって有名な人なんですか？
is Mion-san someone famous?
有名も何も園崎って言えばこの辺りの名家。
Famous doesn't cut it. The Sonozakis are a prestigious family in this area.
かつてひなみ沢村を支配していた御三家の一つよ。
They're one of the three families that once ruled Hinamazawa.
そんなもん昔の話さ。
That's ancient history now.
って園崎さん
Oh, Sonozaki-san,
どこへ行くんですか。
where are you going?
ちょいと用を済ませてくるだけだよ。
I have some business to take care of.
ようって
Business?
はあ、いちいちうるさい坊やだね。
You're awfully nosy.
私はもともとこの神社に用があってきたんだ。
I came here because I have business at the shrine.
あんたたちの相手をするためにここにいるんじゃないんだよ。
I'm not here to keep you company. Sonozaki-san turned back and let out an exaggerated sigh. Then, Sonozaki-san stopped at the entryway and crouched down to put on her sandals.
何？遠くへ行くわけじゃないよ。
I'm not going far.
この集会所の裏にある建物に用があるのさ。
My business is in a building right behind this assembly hall.
裏ってひょっとしてあれか。
Behind? Could it be in there? If that's the case, wouldn't that be a great opportunity? With that in mind, I rushed back to the assembly room, grabbed my rucksack packed with documents, and scrambled back to the entrance. Otobe was so surprised by my movement that he jumped.
どうしたんですか？
Oh, what's going on?
決まってるだろ。集会所の裏って言えば西宮殿。
I'm certain of it. The building behind the assembly hall is the ritual storehouse.
木々の道具がしまってある場所だよ。
It's the place where ceremonial tools are locked away.
西宮殿。
ritual storehouse.
だから祭具殿、お祭りの道具だよ。
That's right. Ritual storehouse. It contains the tools used for festival rituals.
この神社の神主であるフルデ家と村のごく一部の限られたものしか開けることができないという祭具殿。
The shrine priest of the Furude family managed it, and only a select few people in the village were permitted to enter.
そこにはこの村の秘儀に使われた道具がしまってあると言われていて。
Allegedly, the tools used in the village's most secret rituals are housed inside.
興味があるなら乙部もおいで。
If you're interested, you can come too, Otobe. Sonozaki-san was already prepared to head out and had her hand on the door, but she casually looked back to make that offer to Otobe.
僕もいいんですか？
Me? Is that really okay?
あんたが来るくらい構わないだろ。
I don't mind if you come or not.
当然俺も行っていいんすよね。
Then am I allowed to go, too?
好きにしな。
If you insist. Why does she treat me so coldly? Then, Sonozaki-san turned toward Tawada-san to ask her too.
あんたも来るかい？
How about you? Coming?
いえ、
Oh, no.
私はここに残ります。
I'll stay here. Her response surprised me. Wouldn't it feel lonely staying in a place like this on your own?
彼がまだ起きないから。
My boyfriend is still asleep.
匠くんが起きた時、部屋に誰もいなかったらびっくりすると思うんです。
I think Takumi-kun would be really alarmed to wake up alone in this room.
それに
Besides,
それに
besides,
さっきの鬼隠しの話を聞いてたら、なおさら彼をここに一人で残すことなんてできないです。
after all that talk about people being demoned away, I can't just leave him here by himself.
ちょっと考えすぎかもしれませんけどね。
But maybe I'm overthinking it.
そうですか。
I see. Tawada-san gave us a sweet smile. I admired the courage behind that smile. I felt a little worried about leaving a young girl alone in such a massive assembly hall, especially a derelict shrine assembly hall within a ghost town. I was a bit envious of the drunken man with her, who knew nothing of her compassion. In fact, I was resentful. If I were Tawada-san's boyfriend, I definitely wouldn't spend all my time in a liquor-induced coma. Wait, what am I talking about?
一人きりではないにしろ着物座った子だね。
She has the unwavering strength to stay here on her own.
乙部、あんたも見習いな。
Otobe, you could learn a lot from her.
僕は別にビビってなんかいませんよ。
I'm not scared of anything, okay?
ほう、
Oh?
その顔のどこがビビってないんだよ。
If you're not scared, then why are you making that face?
だから別に。
It's not like that. Got his ass. Sonozaki-san turned to Otobe, started teasing him, but he did his best to respond seriously. But the two of them were just so different. Sonozaki-san pinched Otobe's cheeks, then he immediately turned red and went quiet. Tawada-san lightly giggled to herself as she watched the two of them.
彼、もうすぐ起きると思うから、
I think my boyfriend is going to wake up soon.
起きたら私たち先に東京に帰りますね。
Once he does, we'll head back to Tokyo right away.
ああ、そう。
Ah, is that so?
じゃあ祭具殿から帰ってきたらもういないかもしれないのか。
And I guess there's a chance she'll be gone by the time we get back from the ritual storehouse.
そうですね。
That's right.
それじゃあ気をつけてな。
In that case, take care.
いろいろごちそうさん。
Thank you for the meal and everything. Tawada-san lightly bowed her head. Oh, so I guess she was the one who brought the snacks and drinks?
どうも、十和田さん。
Thanks, Tawada-san.
じゃあ
Later. Sonozaki-san and Otobe made their way out of the assembly hall. I made my way to the exit and then looked back through the doorway.
さよなら。
Farewell. Tawada-san watched us all as we headed out. After exiting the assembly hall, we pressed on through the shrine grounds. Though the rain had died down a bit, the ground was still muddy and difficult to walk on. Nevertheless, Sonozaki-san continued walking forward without making a sound. Even though visibility was poor, she confidently stepped forward. Seriously, is this woman really from this world? As that impossible thought came to mind, I quickly glanced at Sonozaki-san. Preposterous. Something like that is completely impossible. Despite that thought, I couldn't help but feel suspicious as I gazed in awe at her skillful footwork. Just then, Sonozaki-san suddenly came to a halt.
どうしたんすか？
What's wrong? Shh. Sonozaki-san's piercing glare signaled me to be silent. Then I quickly glanced left and right.
いいかい、音を立てるんじゃないよ。
Got it? Don't make a sound.
すみません。はい。
Sorry. Okay. Sonozaki-san remained still, like she was waiting for something. I strained my ears, but I couldn't hear anything more than the rain crashing down on the mud.
行くよ。
Let's go. Once again, Sonozaki-san began walking forward. But shortly thereafter, she stopped again.
園崎さん、
Sonozaki-san,
一体どうしたんすか？
what on earth is going on?
誰かいるみたいだね。
I think someone is here. Huh?
近くにいるんだ。
Very close by. Rain clouds blotted the entire sky, so the moonlight couldn't break through him. I followed Sonozaki-san's lead and listened carefully, but I didn't hear anything particularly unusual. Maybe it's a voice that only Sonozaki-san can hear.
お前、何か聞こえるか？
Hey you, can you hear anything?
全然。
Absolutely nothing. I started to smile with relief at Atobe's response, but just then I heard it. Tip, tip, tip. Footsteps. Tip, tip.
何かいる。
Something's out there.
騒ぐんじゃないって言っただろ。
I told you to be quiet.
すみません、すみません。
Sorry. As Atobe continued apologizing, he pointed his flashlight all around. The dense trees growing around the shrine were illuminated, one after another. Eventually, the light struck a wooden building shaped like a warehouse right in front of us. At a glance, I could tell it wasn't your typical building. It was so heavily decorated that all who stood before it would stand in awe. An impressive building.
あれが
Is,
最後で
is that the ritual storehouse? Huh? Atobe wobbled his flashlight left and right until the light finally caught the door of the ritual storehouse, and a dark-haired figure stirred in the middle of the circle of light. Atobe must have seen the same thing. He shook the light to be sure. Eventually, the light struck a set of pale legs and a familiar pair of jeans.
みゆきちゃん？
Miyuki-chan. Huh? I was wondering, where has she been this whole time? The person in front of the ritual storehouse door was Miyuki-chan.
龍之介さ
Ryunosuke-san! When she recognized us, she lightly jogged over.
ん。よかった。
Thank goodness.
車から戻ってくる途中、迷っちゃって。
I got lost on the way back from the car.
迷った。
Lost?
うっかりです。
I got careless.
地図を車に置いてきたから、どっちが集会所かわかんなくなっちゃって。
I left the map in the car, so I wasn't sure how to get to the meeting place. Miyuki-chan shrugged her shoulders and stuck out her tongue, but Sonozaki-san stared coldly at the awkwardly smiling girl.
園崎さん、
Sonozaki-san.
荷物は持ってこられたのかい？
So, did you bring the luggage?
ああ、はい。
Huh? Oh, yes.
おかげさまで。
Fortunately, Miyuki-chan held up a sleeping bag and a large knapsack. Mian-san took a look at the large bag, then frowned and spoke up.
ずいぶん長いこと迷ったんだね。
You've been lost for quite a while, haven't you?
え？
Huh?
その荷物、ずいぶん濡れてるじゃないか。
Your bags are rather soaked, aren't they?
おう、そうなんです。
Oh, that's right.
土地勘がないとどうも要領がつかめなくて。
I'm not very familiar with this area, so I had some trouble navigating. Doesn't believe her for a second. Miyuki-chan was acting a little peculiar. She said she got lost, but was that the truth? It was eerie how easily she was able to lead us to the Furude shrine. So why would she have trouble navigating now? And more importantly, the assembly hall is directly in front of the shrine gate, but the ritual storehouse is deeper back and much harder to reach. Passing by the assembly hall and getting lost back here is completely impossible. Maybe Miyuki-chan has been looking around out here the whole time, carrying the luggage. But why would she do that?
ところで龍之介さんたちはどうして最後で
By the way, Ryunosuke-san, what are you guys doing heading to the ritual storehouse?
いや
Oh, well,
園崎さんがここに用事があるって言うから一緒についてきたんだけどさ
Sonozaki-san said she had business there and I decided to tag along.
すごいですね最後伝を見せてもらえるなんて
That's amazing. I can't believe she would show you the ritual storehouse. Once again, my heart skipped a beat. Miyuki-chan, how did you know that this building was the ritual storehouse? The way she said she would show you implied that she knew Sonozaki-san was somehow, or someone with the right to show people the ritual storehouse. Doesn't it?
どうしたんですか龍之介さん
What's wrong, Ryunosuke-san?
ぼーっとして
They're staring off into space.
もしかして熱があるとか
Maybe you're running a fever.
静かに
Silence.
あんたそこちょいとどきな
Stop making a fuss over there.
はい
Got it. Sonozaki-san grabbed Miyuki-chan by the shoulder and pushed. In response, she rushed over to the door of the storehouse.
乙部そこ照らしてみな
Otobe, aim your light over there.
はい
Okay. Otobe turned his light toward the storehouse in a panic. There was a heavy padlock hanging on the door of the storehouse.
すごい鍵ですね
That's an impressive lock.
ほんと古風な鍵だよな
Indeed. It's really old-fashioned. For the time being, I decided to pull out my digital camera and shoot some material, but Sonozaki-san held up her hand and glared at me. Apparently, she didn't want me taking photos.
仕方ない
It can't be helped. But just being able to witness the interior would be a godsend. I'll just have to commit everything inside to memory so I can put it in the article.
でも鍵がかかっていたんじゃ中には入れないですよね
But it's locked, so I guess we can't enter?
どうするんですか
What should we do?
どいてな
Step aside. Sonozaki-san pulled the string on the long tube she was holding under her arm, and what emerged from within was a handle.
No.
What? The silky cloths quickly fell to the ground as Sonozaki-san grabbed the handle.
それって園崎さん
Sonozaki-san, is that... Perhaps it really is one of those. Then, Sonozaki-san silently pulled it out of its sheath. Oh shit, what a cool pose. What emerged was a very fine sword. Illuminated by the flashlight, a dull glow reflected off the blade.
やっぱ日本刀
Just as I thought, a katana.
あんたどうしてそんなもんを
Why do you have something like that?
っていうか何する
Because she's cool, that's why. Or rather, what are you planning to do with it?
っていうか
Well, I mean... I got so excited that I didn't know what to say. At any rate, what on earth is she doing out here with such a dangerous weapon?
荒川
Arakawa,
口を閉じてそこをどきな
shut your mouth and step aside.
ははい
Alright. I jumped away from the door. Sonozaki-san held the katana so the tip of the blade sat directly above the padlock.
ミオンさん
Mion-san. The surrounding air gathered around Sonozaki-san. Sonozaki-san closed her eyes, and in due time, they opened once again. Clang. Clatter. I couldn't see it very well. Then I noticed Sonozaki-san's katana pointed toward the ground, and the padlock, split in two, still rattling on the ground. Badass, badass. Though all of us stood around her stunned, Sonozaki-san calmly stepped forward. And then, after taking a few steps, she casually turned back to us and spoke.
あんたたちいつまでぼーっとしてるんだい
How long are you all going to dawdle?
行くよ
Let's go.
はい
Okay. Wandering alone in a village like this in the middle of the night, wielding a katana, and intent on coming to this very place. What on earth is she? Sonozaki-san pushed the heavy door open, stepped inside the ritual storehouse, while I stood there lost in my doubts. It smelled of mold and dust, with an iron-like metallic stench mixed in.
真っ暗だから転ばないよう気をつけな。
It's pitch dark, so take care not to fall.
あ、はい。
Alright. Oh. Otobe was shining his flashlight around, then stopped when he found a circuit breaker attached to the wall and reached out to it. I looked up to see several light bulbs hanging from the ceiling, but they must have all been burned out because not a single one lit up.
懐中電灯の明かりだけで十分だよ。
The light from the flashlight should be sufficient.
むしろそっちの方が都合がいい。
In fact, it's more convenient that way. Stepping in a little farther, we found another set of doors. Sonozaki-san put her hands on the door, and then abruptly started pushing it forward. I could tell how heavy it was from how much she struggled to open it. What a weird sound effect. Intending to help, Tobe and I put our hands on the door, and in time we heard the sound of the door opening. Whoa! Whoa, whoa. My voice echoed. A room far larger than I expected was spread out before me, and at the same time a foul stench reached my nose. The murky air was filled with the smell like rotting fish. And this thing right in front of us, is that Oishiro-sama? A huge Buddha-like statue stood at the edge of the ritual storehouse.
これがひなみ沢の守り神ですか。
This is the guardian god of Hinamizawa?
なんかすごい。
It's amazing. Taking a look at my surroundings, the walls, ceilings, shelves, everything were filled with various chisels and carpentry tools. Looking a little closer, I noticed a steel cage hanging from the ceiling, and some kind of restraining device in the corner of the room. And on the table, there were several chain restraint mechanisms.
ここってお祭りの道具がしまってあるはずですよね。
This is where the festival tools are supposed to be stored, right?
なのにちょっと
But
おかしくないですか。
isn't it a little strange?
その疑問は当然だな。
A natural question.
まあ綿流しってお祭りはそもそもちょっと変わっててな。
Though the Watanagashi festival was always a little strange to begin with. When Otobe asked that in a trembling voice, I responded as such and turned my gaze toward the carving knives, saws, and other large slicing tools hanging on the wall.
ひなみ沢でお祭りって言ったらな、鬼が人を食らう時のお祭りを言うんだよ。
The festival of Inamizawa, said to have been the festival where the demons ate humans.
綿流し、つまり綿。
Watanagashi, with wata meaning organs.
臓物を流すお祭りの儀式ってことだ。
It's a ritualistic ceremony of sending entrails drifting downstream. Huh? That's right. These aren't mere tools. They were actually used in service of spilling human blood.
これがその道具。
These are those tools?
まさかとは思っていたけど、こんなものが本当にあるなんて。
I can't believe something like that truly existed. Miyuki-chan examined each and every tool with sharp eyes, unlike Otobe, whose eyes wandered all around, trembling.
ここにあるものはすべて人を殺すためのものなんですね。
So, all the tools in here were for killing people.
おとぎ話なら鬼と人との共存も美談となるんでしょうけど、綺麗事だけで渡っていけるほど世の中は甘くないってことですか。
In the folktale, the humans and demons were able to coexist. But I guess this means reality wasn't so sweet.
みゆきちゃん。
Miyuki-chan. Miyuki-chan said some frightening things in such a nonchalant tone of voice. While feeling surprised by Miyuki-chan's courage, I took another look at the tools. I could picture it clearly in my head, the human sacrifice enduring absolute torment while hanging on the border of life and death. I couldn't see a rational need for these tools to be created. But if these tools were used to butcher the sacrifice while they were still alive and prepare them for consumption, the elaborate designs and decorations all pointed to a single purpose. In other words, the murders were carried out before an audience, and even the villagers must have found enjoyment in such a cruel sight. That thought made me start feeling nauseous.
龍之介さん、大丈夫ですか？
Ryunosuke-san, are you alright?
ああ、平気平気。
Yeah, I'm fine.
すっかり縮み上がっちまってるようだね。
Looks like you're totally cowering in fear. Miyuki-chan put a hand on my shoulder to try and comfort me, but I just raised my hands and awkwardly laughed it off. After watching that, Sonozaki-san turned around and continued searching for what she was looking for in the dimly lit room.
これが鬼隠しの実態さ。
This is the reality of being demoned away.
もしかしたら乙部、あんたの友達も鬼隠しにあって、今頃は料理されているのかもしれないね。
Otobe, perhaps your friends are being butchered and eaten by the demons that abducted them at this very moment.
園崎さん、
Sonozaki-san.
ああ、ごめんよ。
Sorry.
まだそうと決まったわけじゃないしね。
We still don't know that for certain. I could hear the anger in his voice from Sonozaki-san's imprudent choice of words. Then, Sonozaki-san shrugged her shoulders and casually rifled through a cabinet.
まさかこんなものがいっぱいあるなんて思ってもいませんでしたよ。
No way. I never would have imagined anything like this.
まるで見せしめみたいじゃないですか。
It's like they were doing it as a warning to others.
見せしめ？
Oh, warning?
そうです。
Right.
言うことを聞かないとひどい殺し方をするぞっていう。
Listen to me, or suffer a horrible death.
ああ、実際その通りだよ。
Yeah, as a matter of fact, that's exactly it.
ひなみ沢には特殊な掟があってさ。
There are specific rules the people of Hinamizawa are expected to follow.
掟を破った村人は見せしめにひどい殺され方をしたらしい。
And the villagers who violated those rules were supposedly killed in a terrible manner to set an example.
どういう掟なんですか？
What are those rules?
まあ言ってしまえば外界との交流断絶だな。
Well, they mainly exist to keep the village isolated from the outside world.
つまり村に入れるな、村から出るなってこと。
Don't let others into the village, and don't leave the village.
人の流れをひなみ沢周辺と断ち切るための掟ってわけだ。
The rules prevent the flow of people in and out of Hinamizawa.
その掟ってもしかして
If those are the rules,
さっきの話から考えると半人半鬼の血を守るために決められたっぽいですよね。
then maybe they were established to protect the villagers with partial demon blood, like in the story you told us earlier.
まあな。
That might be it. Otobe quickly turned his head away as I agreed with his observation. It was a bit surprising because up until now I didn't think Otobe was a very reliable person.
さっきの話って何ですか？
What were you talking about earlier?
ああ、ひなみ沢の歴史の話をみゆきちゃんがいない間にちょっとね。
Oh, right. We had a conversation about the history of Hinamizawa while you were out, Miyuki-chan.
それってもしかして寄生型宇宙人の話ですか？
Was it the story about the alien parasites?
宇宙人？
Aliens?
何ですかそれ？
What are you talking about? Though Miyuki-chan said that with a jovial smile, Otobe responded in a hysterical tone. The tense atmosphere from a moment ago dispersed in an instant.
あれ？
What?
変なこと言っちゃいました。
Was that a weird thing to say?
いや、そういう話もないわけじゃないよ。
No, I've heard that story before.
ネットじゃ最近はその説が主流みたいだし。
That theory recently made the rounds on the internet.
何なんですか宇宙人って？
What's this about aliens?
太古の昔、円盤に乗って宇宙人が地球に訪れ、鬼ヶ淵沼に着陸したって言うんだよな。
They say that in ancient times, aliens came to Earth aboard a flying saucer that landed at Onigafuchi Swamp.
宇宙人は人間に寄生して脳をコントロールし、自分たちの生存のためにお社様の風説を流布してきたって言うんだよ。
The aliens control the minds of humans using parasites, and they've been spreading the word of Oishiro-sama in order to maintain their way of life. Otobe stood there dumbfounded, with his mouth hanging wide open. Well, anyone would react that way the moment they hear something about aliens.
なんというか、その、
How do I put it?
さすがお二方、オカルトライターですね。
You two really are occult writers, huh?
あのな
Hold on.
私は違うんだけど。
I'm not one of those. Miyuki-chan denied it with a bitter smile as I shot Tobe a scornful glare. The way that Tobe said really didn't sound like a compliment. Damn it. I know it's not unreasonable, but still frustrating.
まったくそんなとんでも話ばかりじゃないぞ。
Look, it's not just crazy stories like that, you hear?
例えば
There are other examples. Then I pulled out a scrapbook and flipped through it to find a more down-to-earth explanation for the theory. The sound of turning pages echoed throughout the ritual storehouse.
その説によるとね、
According to that theory,
村の権力者たちは宇宙人に脳を支配されていたらしいのよ。
the most powerful figures within the village were mind-controlled by the aliens,
そして村の人たちを意のままに操っていた。
and they used them to bend the villagers to their will.
あ
I see.
私がネットで調べた話だとね、無実の人を拷問にかけていたのは園崎家の人だったらしいの。
I've seen people discussing that online. They also mentioned how members of the Sonozaki family tortured innocent people.
あ、園崎家
Sonozaki family?
って園崎さんの家ですか？
You mean that Sonozaki-san's family?
まあそういうことかな。
Well, that's what they said anyway. Miyuki-chan broke into laughter halfway through saying that. It was clear that she didn't take the story seriously. But when standing among all these tools, it seemed misplaced to blame all these atrocious murders on the work of aliens. It wasn't a convincing story. Even so, since Tobe heard the name Sonozaki, he began frantically looking back and forth between Miyuki-chan and Sonozaki-san.
まあ園崎家は村の権力者には違いないけどな。
Well, it's true that the Sonozaki family is one of the most powerful organizations in the village. That said,
まさか
no way.
園崎さんが寄生型宇宙人だって言うんですか？
You're saying that Sonozaki-san is being controlled by alien parasites?
むちゃくちゃだな。
That's absurd. Tobe was looking pale until a little while ago, but a smile finally started to form on his face. Perhaps he thought the story far too ridiculous to be believable.
どうしたの、乙部君。
What's wrong, Tobe-kun?
ああ、いえ、ミオンさんが宇宙人なのかと思ったらなんだか面白くて。
Oh, no. It was just kind of funny to imagine Mion-san as an alien.
ミオンさん
Mion-san?
ええ、園崎ミオンさんですよ。
Right. Mion Sonozaki-san.
ミオン
Mion. Taken by surprise, I quickly flipped back through the scrapbook.
龍之介さん。
Ryunosuke-san?
あちょっと待って
Hold on.
まさかまさか
No way. Can't be. Mion Sonozaki. That's it. I finally understood why that name stuck out to me. And there was no mistaking it. I definitely saw that name in the scrapbook earlier. My hands lightly trembled as I flipped through the pages. Atobe apparently didn't notice my agitation. He seemed to be relaxed and enjoying our discussion of absurd theories.
それにしても宇宙人なんてすごい話ですよね。
Anyway, the stuff about aliens is a wild story.
誰が言い出したのか知らないけど、よくもまあ。
I don't know who thought it up, but it's just so crazy.
でもね、当時は実際に信じていた人がいたのよ。
But, you know, there was someone out there who actually believed this story.
その説を信じた村の少女は学校を占拠して教室にガソリンをまいて宇宙人説を必死で訴えたの。
We know that person. A girl from this village held a school hostage, doused a classroom in gasoline, and fought desperately to get more people to believe this alien theory.
その少女の訴えが今日の宇宙人説の基礎になっているらしいわね。
And her actions seem to lay the groundwork for the modern alien theory.
ねえ龍之介さん。
Right, Ryunosuke-san?
あ
Right. I briefly looked up from the scrapbook to make it look like I was paying attention. The police tried negotiating with her, but they failed. A massive explosion occurred within the school building, killing the culprit and all the students held hostages within. And the very next day, the gas disaster occurred.
そういえばその少女はガス災害についても予言していたって噂があるんだよな。
By the way, there are rumors that this girl predicted the gas disaster as well.
未だにガス災害が本当に自然災害なのか疑う声は絶えない。
And there are still some doubts that the gas disaster was a natural disaster at all.
マニアの間では宇宙人を全滅させるために政府の秘密組織がガス攻撃したんじゃないかなんて説までがまことしやかにささやかれているくらいだからな。
Some of the more wild conspiracy theorists allege that a secret government organization released the gas in order to annihilate the aliens.
そこまで行くとさすがにもう全然ついていけませんね。
When you go that far out, it's impossible to keep up. Oh. Just then, Sonozaki-san let out a stifled laugh. She was apparently listening to our conversation while rummaging through the torture tools. And then...
私にも取り付いてるのかもしれないね。
So, this alien parasite of yours
そう。寄生型宇宙人ってやつがさ。
probably possessed me too?
何言い出すんですか。
What are you talking about?
冗談はやめてくださいよ。
Quit joking around.
そうさ。
That's right.
私は本当はあんたたちに見えている私じゃない。
I'm not actually me at all.
私はね、
The truth is,
実は取り付いている存在なのさ。
I'm being possessed. Sonozaki-san's eyes glimmered in the dark as she let out a creepy laugh. She had a mysterious, terrifying visage, and an eerie shadow was cast behind her back. I felt an inhuman aura emanating from Sonozaki-san as she turned her back to the statue of Oishiro-sama. She looked like a demon herself. Indeed, juxtaposed with the fierce shadow of Oishiro-sama, she looked inhuman.
変な冗談はやめてくださいよ。
Please stop making these weird jokes. Otoe trembled as he exclaimed that with all his might. I, on the other hand, was too embarrassed to say anything at all. Russell. I took a step back and accidentally bumped my arm into something, making me drop my scrapbook.
龍之介さん。
Ryunosuke-san?
ああ、悪い。
Sorry. I bent down to pick up the scrapbook, but my hand suddenly stopped. What I found down there was the article I'd been searching for, and the name Mion Sonozaki was clearly written there.
おい、これ。
Hey, take a look at this.
龍之介さん、どうしたんですか？
Ryunosuke-san, what is it?
みゆきちゃん、ちょっと来てくれ。
Miyuki-chan, come here for a second. I took a quick glance at Sonozaki-san, then grabbed Miyuki-chan by the arm.
龍之介さん。
Ryunosuke-san,
いいからちょっと。
look, just come with me. I focused my gaze downward to avoid making eye contact with Sonozaki-san as I dragged Miyuki-chan out of the ritual storehouse.
あれ、
Huh?
荒川さん、反町さん。
Arakawa-san. Sorimachi-san. Feeling left behind, Otoe began frantically looking around. And then, Sonozaki-san resumed hunting through the torture tools inside the ritual storehouse.
ついに見つけたよ。
I found it.
この巻物が欲しかったんだ。
The thing I was looking for. The scroll. Sonozaki-san smiled to herself as she pushed the pile of tools aside to reach for the scroll. When Otobe saw that, he caught his breath and swallowed hard. Whoa! Behind the scroll, the figure of a long-haired girl was reflected.
リカ
What?
ちゃん、ありがとうね。
Rika-chan, thank you. Then, the girl muttered something to Sonozaki-san with a thin smile on her face, before vanishing into the air. Oh, that was quick.
これで全部肩がつくよ。
With this, everything is complete. The statue of Oishiro-sama was standing behind Sonozaki-san with a sickle in hand. In Otobe's mind, that sight overlapped with the vision of a demon slashing a human open in devotion to Oishiro-sama.
荒川さん、反町さん。
Arakawa-san! Sorimachi-san! Help! Toby was short of breath as he came running out of the ritual storehouse.
みゆきちゃん見てくれよこれ
Miyuki-chan, take a look at this. Outside the ritual storehouse, I spread open the scrapbook and held it up to Miyuki-chan. It was a newspaper article from 1983 listing the victims from the school hostage incident.
被害者一覧
A list of victims.
これがどうしたんです？
What about it?
ここ見てみろよ
Right here. Take a look. I pointed at the list of victims from the gasoline explosion at the school. Satoko Hojo, Rika Furude, Mion Sonosaki, Reina. Miyuki-chan's eyes fixated on a single entry. Mion Sonosaki. Huh?
そう園崎美音
That's right. Mion Sonosaki.
でも
But
まさかどうして
no way. Why?
そんなはずは
That shouldn't be.
俺だって信じられねえよ
I find it hard to believe too.
だけど
But Yuki-chan kept silent and continued gazing at the scrapbook.
荒川さん反町さん
Arakawa-san! Soimachi-san! Otobe ran over, then started to look perplexed. Maybe he noticed the tense atmosphere around Miyuki-chan and me.
どうしたんですか
What's wrong?
死んでるんだ
She's dead.
え
Huh? I was frustrated by the look of absolute incomprehension on Otobe's face.
だから20年以上前に死んでるんだよ
Because...
園崎美音は
Because Mion Sonosaki died over 20 years ago.
見ろ
Take a look. I handed the scrapbook to Otobe, pointed to the article. Otobe carefully looked over the page I indicated, and eventually... Thud. He dropped the scrapbook, and Miyuki-chan stared blankly at the ritual storehouse, making no effort to hide her bewilderment.
死んだ人間がどうしてここに
What is a dead person doing here?
嘘でしょありえない
It can't be true. That's impossible.
それじゃあそこにいる人は誰だったの
If that's the case, then who is that person over there? A deceased person from this very village, guiding living beings into the world of the dead. The words from my father's diary ran through my head over and over again. No way. The dead are reaching out to the living?
この村は常識では考えられない現象が起きてもおかしくないからな
This village has something strange going on. Something that defies common sense. I tried to spin a few words, but nothing I said brought me any peace of mind. I've investigated many places as an occult writer, but this was a first for me. A village that's been blockaded for over 20 years, where the dead walk freely and the living can be demoned away in an instant.
一体何がどうなっているんだ
What the hell is going on here? Maybe I shouldn't have come to Hinamizawa after all. I knew nothing of the incomprehensible power at work within this village. A real-life ghost. A tip called thank you. Thank you. There it is. Eventually, I found a sword while searching through a shelf in the back of the ritual storehouse. A sword handed down through the Sonosaki family. The Tamahajiki sword. And that was the crucial key to find the very thing that we were searching for.
しかしまあ鍵を探すだけでこんなにも手間取るとはね
Still, sure took a lot of trouble just finding the key.
残すはありかを示した巻物一つだけどどこにしまってあるのか
And there should be a single scroll showing where the item is stored, but where is it? I wiped away the dust and carefully examined the items stored on the shelf. Although, it'll be hard to find anything in here with so little light.
一度集会所に戻るか。
Maybe I should head back to the assembly hall. The moment I said that...
なんだい、戻ってきたのかい。
What are you doing back here? I heard footsteps coming from behind and turned back, thinking it was Otobe and the others.
みー
Oh, get to hear her speak. Me... Huh? Without a doubt, the person standing there was her.
あんた。
You...
何か探し物があるの？
Are you looking for something?
ああ、
That's right.
ちょいと。
I'm having a little trouble. That answer was the best I could squeeze out. The more I tried to understand it, the more the shock and bewilderment showed in my face.
そんなに怖い顔しないで。
Don't make that scary face.
少しだけ手伝ってあげたいと思ってね。
I'd like to give you a little help.
ほら。
Look here. Huh? And then, she rose up, smiling and laughing, as something suddenly rolled out by her feet. Looking more closely, it was a single old scroll. That's probably... No, that's definitely what I'm looking for. I gently picked it up, then looked up to face the girl in front of me. The fear I felt a moment ago immediately faded away.
ありがとよ、リカちゃん。
Thank you, Rika-chan.
おかげで助かったよ。
You've been a big help. Fades away. Refuses to elaborate. And then, Rika-chan. She smiled as she passed by my side. And then...
先に行ってるわね。
I'm going ahead.
え？
Huh?
早く済ませた方がいいわ。
You need to end this quickly.
もうあまり時間は残っていないから。
There's not much time left. Ah. Then once I came to my senses, I looked back, but nobody was there. That scene, it was like a dream. Then I understood. I knew. The reason why the girl who died on that day appeared before me.
ありがとう、リカちゃん。
Thank you, Rika-chan. Then I held the sword up high to express my gratitude to the empty room. That moment, it seemed like someone was laughing in the far corners of the darkness. I could feel it. Okay. Okay, Rika. Rika Ghost. Ghost Rika. Spirit Rika. Alright, I'm actually going to call it there for Higurashi reading for the day. But like I said, I'm pretty sure I'm going to want to be reading probably Higurashi throughout next week. Quite a bit. Because we kind of... Like I said, I think I said last time we were reading, I think this arc is not as long as especially the previous one we were reading. So, what I'll actually do is throw up a BRB. I'm going to get some water and stretch just for a bit. And then I'm going to get blueprints booted up. I'm going to go get my notebook of notes. And then I will boot up some blueprints. So, I'll be back shortly. Give me a good handful of minutes. And then I will have that started up. So, be back shortly.